Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. It is Thursday, November 21st, 8:47 a.m., and we are back again on another market open. We've got a lot to talk about this morning. We've got a lot to talk about every morning, but this morning's an important morning because this morning is the morning after Nvidia earnings. And the initial reaction, if you guys were watching the Nvidia earnings stream yesterday, by the way, thank you to everyone who showed up for that yesterday, was kind of flat, kind of negative, down at one point almost 4.5%, and then ultimately through the end of the night was down 2.5%. In the pre-markets currently for Nvidia, we are green, baby. We are green, baby, up 1.48%. And the reason we're green is probably because the street realized that, wait a second, beating by $2 billion on your revenues and guiding for 70% growth next quarter, it's not bad. It's probably not bad. So that's what you got going on right now in Nvidia. I believe they absolutely crushed it. We'll talk about Nvidia in a little bit and get into all the deep numbers. The other headline of today is Bitcoin. Bitcoin right now is at 97,515. While I was sleeping overnight, it went to 98,404. Trying to close it on 99. And right now it's at 97,000. As a result of Bitcoin at being at 97,000, well, what do you expect? MicroStrategy is up another 13% at 537, hit 547 in the pre-markets. As a result, MSTU leverage against MicroStrategy, that's up 21%. MSTX, which is 2x leverage against MicroStrategy, that is up 26% in the pre-markets at 217. You've got Robinhood, that is up 3.9% at 37.50. You've got Coinbase, let's check where Coinbase is right now, at 327, up 2.34%. And you have Marathon. Chris came on the channel 2 days ago, and he said he thinks Marathon can be a new MicroStrategy with the convertible debt that they're raising. Marathon is up 9% today after being up 13% yesterday. It is fundamentally outperforming all the other Bitcoin miners, and it seems like the market wants to bet on companies that are becoming a Bitcoin treasury over just traditional Bitcoin miners, and that's the route that Marathon is going. So you've got Bitcoin trying to crack 98,000. You've got Nvidia crushing earnings. Overall, you've got a market that is very excited. I mean, if you take a look at the S&P 500 right here, S&P's at 593, up 0.5%. In the pre-markets, it was down about 1.5% on Friday. And then the Qs are up 0.5% as well at 505. They were also down 2.5% on Friday. Bitcoin doing well and Nvidia doing well is helping the broader market. And that's why we're seeing some momentum right now in the pre-markets and for the rest of some of these stocks that are obviously proxies to Bitcoin. Also, real quick, yes, SoFi, before we get into Nvidia, I saw this like 3 minutes ago. SoFi, are we at 15 yet? We're not at 15, 1487. We hit 1499 on SoFi. It looks like it wants 15. Now we just got to see if it has the momentum to get there, but not bad on SoFi. It's been hovering around 1450 for the past couple of days. Closed yesterday above that at 1467. 15 looks like is what SoFi wants. And you got Palantir right here. That's not super red, not super green, $62. Palantir did win a $115 million extension for a government deal. We'll talk about that in a bit. It is not like, you know, the biggest deal in the world, not a new contract. It's an extension of a contract they already had. But the fact that they got this $150 million extension, it's actually really bullish because one of the analysts on Palantir, if you're part of the community, you might know his name, Louis De Palma. He has said for the past couple of years that Palantir will not get this contract extended. And from the research that the community's found, it's not public yet. It's not a deal. It's not like a PR on Palantir's website. We just found it on like the government procurement website. It looks like they got that deal, which is very, very exciting. We'll talk about Snowflake. We'll talk about Palo Alto. We'll talk about all that. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. It is time to get into the market open. Thank you, everybody. Justin, Midwest, what's up? What's up? I'm Beneficial, Edgar, Lang, William, Critter, Cindy, Josh, Craig, Irwin. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. Sanjay, what's up? Ricardo, Marcus, Joseph, Mario, Alan, Jeffrey, George, Rohan, Inbound, Jonathan, Lena, thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. Matthew, what's up? Top Dasher, Brian, Nemo. We got a lot of people here that want to know about the market, and it's time to analyze about the markets. In particular, we got to start analyzing Nvidia. So I think let's get into that to start off the show. Jack says, "Good morning from Massachusetts." Jack, I don't know if you are familiar with the channel, if you're new to the channel, or if you're saying it to make me say it, but good morning to you from Massachusetts. For those that don't get it, I can't say that word. It's worse than William Simona. I don't know. By the way, I talked to some people yesterday about William Simona. Apparently, it's like a big deal, and it was weird. Like they were like, "How did you not know William Simona?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I didn't know what William Simona was, but I know what Massachusetts is, even if I can't say it." All right, let's get started. Nvidia. Let's get into what we got going on for Nvidia. So first of all, put a 1 in the chat if you thought Nvidia crushed it. Put a 2 if you think they fell short. Really curious to see kind of what the community is thinking. I think overwhelmingly we're going to get some 1s because these numbers, in my opinion, are undeniable. It is very, very difficult to say that Nvidia did not have a good quarter, primarily because of how they executed against their revenue growth and earnings expectations, and ultimately their guidance. So if you look at Nvidia right here, the street expected 33 billion. Yeah, we got a lot of 1s in the chat. Makes sense. Nvidia crushed it. By the way, congrats to Nvidia shareholders. Also, congrats to the option sellers of Nvidia, selling covered calls, cash card puts. Nvidia's kind of flat right now. It's up 2%. But if you bought options, didn't do that well. I mean, if you bought the 150 call, there was 189,000 of those open. I don't know if we get to 150, but it might not be the best. And if you bought the 130 put, there was like 50,000 of those open. We might not get to 130. So nonetheless, option sellers win, but Nvidia overall a great quarter. 35.1 billion in revenue. The street expected 33. That's a $2 billion beat. I mean, that is something that we can't just ignore in terms of how strong their beats are and how much they're sandbagging every single quarter. Some of the analysts are upset that they're only guiding for 37.5 billion versus 38 billion. My argument is they're probably going to do 39 billion, and they're just kind of keeping expectations as low as they can to have another significant beat. And so I think earnings in Q4 are still going to be good as well. Operating margin 62.3%. That's up. Free cash flow margin is up 47.9%. Net income margins at 55%. EPS was 81 cents. They beat that by about 10%. The street expected 74 cents. Data center revenue, which is the majority of Nvidia's revenues, $30 billion, up 112% year over year. And revenue growth in general was up 94% year over year. So in Q1 of 2024, we saw Nvidia have revenue growth of 282%. They can't continue to do 282% revenue growth. That's just not how companies work. Over time, you get bigger and the base gets bigger. And as a result, you can't beat by those types of margins and those types of numbers. But you can still have really good growth. They're almost doing triple digit growth at 94%, even if it's not 282%. So like the quarter itself was absolutely incredible and phenomenal. And the earnings growth that they put up, it's hard to say that that's bad. And it's hard to say that the guidance they're giving is also bad, even if you have some like nitpicky things about it that you might not like. Gross profit, 26.2 billion, operating profit, 21.95 billion, net profit, $19 billion in pure net income off $35 billion. That is a 55% margin. That's 2% higher than yesterday's margin as well, which is incredibly, incredibly exciting in the context of what we got for Nvidia. SMCI also is currently up a little bit in the pre-markets. We'll talk about what Jensen said about them. He did mention them at the end of the call and said, we're proud to work with a lot of companies. And he named a bunch of companies, and he's like, and at the very end, he was like super micro as well. SMCI up 5.3%, got a little bit of the Jensen love yesterday, but the entire semi ecosystem benefiting off of these Nvidia earnings. Now, what did the street think? Well, let's see. HSBC actually cut their target to 195, but they still have a buy from 200, and we'll talk about why. Bard raised it to 195 from 150. Evercore raised it to 190 from 189. Bank of America 190. Jefferies 185 from 150. Mizuho 175 from 165. Bernstein 175 from 155. Citi 175 from 170. I can go down the rest of the list, but pretty much all of them have said, hey, we are raising our price targets. Nvidia should go higher. The only one that put it as a hold is Deutsche Bank. But they raised them from 115 to 140. So we got a price target raise, but they still have a hold on Nvidia. So pretty much every analyst was like, hey, yeah, we think this is fine. We think they pretty much crushed all the results they needed to crush. Yeah, it wasn't an amazing quarter in the context of having like this crazy type of growth, but you can't expect that at these points anymore because Nvidia is, now becoming a mature company. And because they're becoming a mature company, we should let them mature, like get our expectations and set, but still, the way most of these companies are getting to 185, 190 is because they believe 450 to 475. I mean, some of the more bullish analysts are believing $5 of EPS in 2025. You put a 40 multiple on $5 of EPS, boom, you got 200, right? And so a lot of these guys, if you have 450 and you have a 35 multiple, et cetera, that's kind of how they're getting to these price targets. But at the end of the day, they think profitability is going to be fine, and they think the long-term revenue growth is good. Now, what were some of the bearish aspects of Nvidia's earnings? Number one, Jensen didn't give the best answer to tariffs when he was asked about that. And I don't really blame him for that because, I mean, he doesn't know what the hell's going to happen. I don't even think Trump fully knows what's going to happen when it comes to tariffs. So when they asked, hey, what do you think tariffs is going to do to affect the business? Jensen was kind of like, We'll worry about that when we get there. And so that was one of the things that analysts want a little bit more clarity on. But again, you can't really give them that much clarity. Number two is the gross margin story. They did say next quarter, expect gross margins to be in the low 70s. So from 70 to 73%. One of the stories about Nvidia is that they have such a monopoly in terms of their intellectual property on building these GPUs, and then they're so vertically integrated that they have like an actual monopoly around pricing power. However, it's still a hardware business, right? There is a software component to it, but the far majority of their revenues, I would say 95% of that, is hardware. And so if you can't develop a good gross margin on that, and you don't have like software gross margins at 85, 90%, then if gross margins go down, net income comes down. So one of the things they're guiding for due to the Blackwell ramp is like, hey, margins usually are 75 to 77. They're probably going to be 71 to 73. And that could have been a reason why the stock fell as well after hours, kind of the street thinking, all right, so our net income projections have to go down, which means our earnings multiples are naturally, even if they stay high, the stock price targets we're going to have is going to go down because they're multiples attached to a smaller EPS target. But at the end of the day, Jensen also did say those gross margins should get back into the mid 70s over the next 2 quarters as Blackwell ramps up. And so, I mean, those were kind of the two, I guess, bearish things that we got from Nvidia. The other bearish thing is that the call itself was just like not that good, in my opinion. I think their technology for a $3 trillion technology company was very weird. Like the mic was very staticky, all that stuff. So it was one of those things where the call was not the most enjoyable, but the numbers were phenomenal. And I think Jensen also kind of just got tired of explaining the story every single time. I mean, these guys are asking him the same questions, and it's almost like he's like, hey, do you believe me or you do not believe me? Like, do you believe AI is going to change the world or not? And if you do, here are the numbers. Here's the growth. I don't know what else you want to see other than more numbers and more growth. And that's what we're guiding to give you. And if you don't believe me, then just get the hell out. I feel like that's the attitude Jensen had on the call. And I can't necessarily blame him for that. So those were pretty much what we saw from Nvidia earnings expectations. Again, the last thing that was the most bearish part is that the street wanted 38.5 billion on the Q4 guide. They brought in 37. So the street thought, all right, 1 billion is kind of missing here. But I think that's just them sandbagging to try to get a 39 or maybe $40 billion beat in Q4. And if they do that, that's going to be good. They were asked about the overheating. Jensen said, look, it's not really our fault. It's the vendor's fault. We work with tons and tons of suppliers. Those suppliers are going to be able to work and navigate that. We are working with them to try to make sure that issue doesn't exist. But ultimately said that's not an Nvidia like design problem with their chip. That's more of a problem with the actual vendors that are architecting the chips inside of their own facilities. And so that is something that should be resolved and should not be the biggest thing in the world. So that's what you got. That's what you got in the context for Nvidia. Kareem says Jensen didn't have the energy that he usually seems to have, and I'm as big of a Jensen fan as they come. Yeah, I agree. You know, Carp on every earnings call, the energy is there, right? Whether you love what he says or hate what he says, the energy is always there, and he's always philosophical, rambling, banging the table, all that stuff. He wakes up for those earnings calls. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like NBA players, basketball players on a random Wednesday in March. They're not going to get excited to play a game. But once you start getting close to the playoffs, once you know, if the Lakers are facing the Celtics because they have a rivalry, they're going to wake up for that game. This is one of those earnings where Jensen was just like, he didn't wake up for it. And you can't blame him that he didn't wake up for it because he delivered on the numbers. It's not like, you know, he was bad on the numbers and then bad on the call. It was kind of just one of those things where it's like, look, the numbers are good and I'm not going to entertain, you know, nonsense from you guys when you're asking these questions. And to the analysts' credit, they didn't really ask horrible questions. I mean, there were good, strong questions. A lot of them were more financial based. That's probably another reason Jensen didn't have a lot of energy, because they weren't asking him about like the thesis of Nvidia. They were saying like, so this number, will it be up or down in next quarter? And Jensen's like, I don't know. Colette, why don't you answer that question? And then Colette gets on the mic and you hear blah, 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 on the mic. And it's like, all right, what is happening in this call? So overall, I think that's why the stock sold off. But the stock's green right now because investors are realizing, yeah, this was a really, really good quarter, and we cannot forget about that. So that's what we got. That's what we got in the context of Nvidia. It seems like pretty much all of you guys were bullish on the call and the overall earnings. I was pretty bullish. We had Jose on the channel. He's been a long-term investor in Nvidia, average in the teens on Nvidia. He was buying years ago. He was pretty bullish. He originally said the stock is going to be whatever, but the actual numbers that they needed to have, they executed. And here's the thing. If you are just a general stock market investor, you don't invest in Nvidia, you needed Nvidia to crush to prove that the AI thematic is intact. You know, spending is going good. The hyperscalers are actually allocating capital. They're seeing an ROI, yada, yada, yada. All of that stuff needed to show via Nvidia's earnings that it was good to go. And Nvidia showed that. And I think that's the most important thing that we saw yesterday. And overall, whatever happens, the stock is whatever, but it's up probably 2% right now. Because the street's realizing that a 70% growth guide and a 70% growth guide and a $2 billion beat is not something to ignore. So we got Nvidia 148.50 currently right now in the pre-markets. Okay, cool. So that's what we got in NVIDIA. Let's talk about... Actually, let's do Palantir real quick. I know we got to talk about a lot of things on Bitcoin. I see you guys talking about Merit in the chat. Let me quickly do Palantir. It's a very small update. So let's just put that there, and then we'll keep going from there. So Palantir got a $115 million extension on their Army Vantage contract. So some people might know what the Army Vantage contract is, but it's a contract that creates data operations and basically a data operating system for the broader Army. This came out yesterday. Palantir was awarded a other transaction authority modification, essentially meaning an extension, to extend the Army Vantage period of performance by over 12 months. So that ends, that starts with December 15th, 2020, or that has an estimated completion date of December 15th, 2024. Basically saying, hey, they already had this extension, and now we're reporting that we gave them this extension, which is $115 million on the Army Vantage deal. Now, the total amount, I know a lot of people are seeing this number on Twitter of $620 million. That is not a new contract. Let me be very clear. That's $620 million that people are seeing floating around on Twitter. $620 million. That is not a new contract. That is in culmination of the other $500 million that they got over the past 4 years. What's important about this is not the extra $115 million, which is really good because that means the government business is ramping up and we're continuing to get more money from the government on contracts that are very important, like working with the Army. What's important about this, and this is getting a little nitty gritty into the Palantir kind of story, but Louis De Palma is one of the analysts, I believe from William Blair. And he said 2 quarters ago, Palantir will never extend their Army Vantage contract. I mean, quite literally, if you just research William Blair, Louis De Palma, Army Vantage, you will see one of his research note that says Palantir shouldn't get another contract that is similar to Army Vantage because of whatever stupid reason he had. He was wrong. And all the analysts that have been doubting the government growth have been wrong. So the stock's not really moving on this. They didn't do a PR about this. We had to kind of dig through some government websites to be able to find this stuff. So it makes sense. I think they will do a PR eventually because $115 million is still a good amount of money for 1 year that they're getting extended on this contract. But this is kind of baked into the stock. The market expected them to get these deals. The market expected them to extend this Army Vantage contract. Louis De Palma did not, which is why he's been bearish for the past couple of years. And his bearishness, has not worked out. One thing I will say on Palantir, and then again, and we'll go back to it after the market open. We are normalizing 60, folks. We are normalizing. I'm just saying, if we're not normalizing 60, we're at least normalizing above 50 or above 55 or at least above 45, right? So the fact that Palantir is maintaining a $140 billion market cap is pretty damn incredible. And we are maintaining those levels currently right now at 62 on Palantir. Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin. We got a lot of stuff to talk about Bitcoin. So first of all, here we go. Bitcoin, 97,464. You've got Robinhood at 37.41. Robinhood did touch $38 yesterday. I do think it is headed back to that $38 level because we broke 37. We broke 38. The market kind of recognizes what's happening with Robinhood. They got upgraded to $51 yesterday from Bernstein. So Robinhood to 38 makes a lot of sense to me. 37.45 right now, up 3.78% in the pre-market. MicroStrategy is up as well. MicroStrategy right here at 543, up 14%. Currently, right now, Ethereum has not been moving a lot. You guys are saying in the chat, Ethereum's moving. Wow, look at that. Ethereum from 3,100 as of 7:05 a.m., 9:05, we're at 33. So Ethereum has been the laggard over the past, call it month in the context of Bitcoin, maybe even 2 months. Bitcoin obviously going from like 60 to almost 100 at this point and 97,000. Ethereum going from maybe 28 to 31. So it looks like Ethereum's waking up, which means the broader crypto ecosystem is waking up. And then you got Marathon right here. I know a lot of you guys were on the channel when Chris brought up his Marathon thesis. I did get into some leaps for Marathon. I thought the thesis made a lot of sense when Chris explained it to me. And look, ultimately they are becoming a MicroStrategy. Now, here's the thing. I was on the phone with Chris last night and I asked him a couple questions on this Marathon thesis. And let me know in the chat if you got into Marathon as well. What's to stop all the other Bitcoin miners from trying to become a Marathon, right? Or a MicroStrategy? What's to stop all these other Clean Sparks and Riots, et cetera, from saying, hey, give us money for free and we're going to go buy Bitcoin, put it on the balance sheet, and then we're going to keep doing what we're doing? And Chris's response was, well, nothing's stopping them. And so theoretically, all these other Bitcoin miners could do what Marathon is doing, and Marathon is doing whatever MicroStrategy is doing. But the question is, are they going to do it? And if they do it, I think there's two risks here. Number one, does it dilute the space in terms of the reason MicroStrategy gets a premium, and we'll talk more about MicroStrategy in a second, is that they have a unique alpha-oriented leverage against Bitcoin by collateralizing their stock with cheap debt or their convertible notes. And that creates the leverage in the options market that makes it so exciting. Marathon doing that is at a smaller premium, which is good. But if all the other companies do that, does it kind of dilute the entire thesis of like buying these companies in order to get that leverage? That's one argument. The second argument can be, well, wait a second. What if it just boosts up all the demand for Bitcoin, which is what we're seeing from an institutionalization perspective in terms of how much people are getting into Bitcoin, how many ETFs, different money manager getting into Bitcoin, and that just puts the price higher. And if that puts the price higher, then that is going to help Marathon. Now, the question still remains, why is that going to help Marathon? Well, here's the differentiating reason for why Marathon might be able to do this better than every other Bitcoin miner. They have the most Bitcoin out of all of them. 25,000 Bitcoin for Marathon. They have a head start against the next largest Bitcoin miner, which is Riot, at 10,000 Bitcoin. So obviously MicroStrategy has 331,000, Marathon is 25,000. So even if the other Bitcoin miners decide to do this, which naturally should be good for Bitcoin itself, because you just got a ton of buy side pressure on Bitcoin, Marathon's holdings already are leveraged against their stock, and they already have the most amount of Bitcoin. They've already been able to prove they can raise $1 billion of interest-free debt. Think about it like this, for everyone who's skeptical about this, and it's fair to be skeptical, but this is one of the things that I think is important to understand in the context of the MicroStrategy thesis. Who is giving someone $1 billion of interest-free debt to buy gold? Nobody, right? What money managers out there are saying, hey, company, put gold on your balance sheet. We'll give you $1 billion. Don't pay us back until 2030, and don't even worry about paying us back. Just convert the debt that we're issuing you into stock. No one's doing that. And the reason no one's doing that is because gold is 17 trillion. Bitcoin's at this point about 1.8 trillion, and people see, for better or for worse, the actual opportunity in the asset class that is Bitcoin. So I think the fact that MicroStrategy was able to up their convertible note offering from 1.75 to 2.6 means the demand is there, which means they're going to buy another close to $3 billion of Bitcoin soon. The fact that Marathon was able to raise $1 billion of interest-free debt, like it's not easy to get interest-free debt at all. Tesla never gives 0% APR. I was able to get 0% APR because they're trying to crank up their Q4 numbers, right? Usually this stuff doesn't happen. And the fact that at this scale it's happening just means that there's a lot of momentum in this space. And the crypto ecosystem right now is doing very, very well. And we're seeing a lot of momentum. I want to switch it over to Jack Mallers, who's been in the Bitcoin space for a while. He owns and operates a Bitcoin company. This is what he said yesterday on what would happen if Trump announced a Bitcoin reserve. And I thought this was pretty insightful. This could really, really create more momentum when it comes to Bitcoin.
I think the unique positioning on the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, I think if this happens, this will be one of the most important economic announcements in U.S. history. I think it'd be on par with 1971 and Nixon. However, what I think is not being talked about enough is it's positive, Caroline. It's positive.
Because you'd have to go out there and buy in the market, but will that actually happen?
No, my meaning is this. In 1933, the U.S. had a really big economic announcement. What was it? We're taking all your gold. In 1971, the U.S. had a really big economic announcement. What was it? We're divorcing ourselves from the gold standard so we can print money. In 2008, the U.S. had a really big economic announcement. What was it? It was we're bailing out all the big banks that misbehaved. In 2025, if the U.S. has a really big economic announcement, what is it? It's we're pro-technology, we're pro-innovation. What principles and morals and ethical alignment does Bitcoin have? Equal rights, equal opportunity, an open network. These are American ideals, American values. This is an asset that was accessible to the people 15 years ago that the people own. Governments only own 2, 3, 4% of this asset. This asset is held by the people. It acts in the best interest of the public. It's pro-jobs, it's pro-energy, it's pro-industry, it's pro-growth. And does anyone else have a plan to get us out of debt? Are we going to start a lemonade stand out here in Times Square? No, how about the best performing asset in the history of mankind? We lean into it, we buy it. Coinbase is an American company, Strike's an American company, Kraken's an American company, Tether sells the US dollar. Let's support these businesses. Let's support this industry.
But the market cap is less than Nvidia for the entire crypto ecosystem. When does that become bigger?
I think when people buy it, listen, I think that ego gets in the way of many people. People think they're late to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't understand that, right? I think that late according to who? Oh, because you're comparing yourself to Michael Saylor, you're comparing yourself to your college roommate, you're comparing yourself to your coworker. Over the last 15 years, the best thing you could have done is buy Bitcoin. And I think that's going to be true for the next 1,500 years. And so as a country, I think we have a choice. I think everyone else around the world is understanding we are pro-growth, pro-business, pro-Bitcoin as this new administration takes office. And we have to make a decision. I think the worst thing we can do is not own enough. And actually, to de-risk this, we should buy some and push these American ideals in technology and innovation and growth through the best performing asset and technology in mankind.
So that is the thesis. That is the thesis. And you can either love the thesis or hate the thesis, but the thesis is what he just said, right? Which is that Bitcoin is the best performing asset. We don't have any way to really pay off our debt. Maybe if we buy some of this asset and take a risk, we spend a lot of money. Elon's been tweeting all this different stuff we waste money on from the DOGE account. Maybe we should take some of that money and take a little bit of a risk and put it into some Bitcoin. Now, regardless of if you love or hate that thesis, the question is for investors, what is the implication of that on Bitcoin and on the broader, crypto ecosystem? And I think it is undeniable that it is bullish. Now, is it going to happen? I don't know. I talked about yesterday. I read some reports that says Trump's thinking of using executive action to set up the Bitcoin reserve. He's got a lot of people in his ear that are saying do this. And he ran on the promise. I mean, you could argue crypto was one of the things that got him elected in terms of the crypto population, saying, hey, he's going to get rid of Gary Gensler. He's going to set up the strategic reserve. He literally said word for word, there will be a strategic reserve. And so if that were to happen, the question is that priced in? And I don't know if the U.S. buying 1 million Bitcoin is priced in. I don't know if the U.S. buying even 100,000 Bitcoin is priced in right now. And that's something that we need to think about. Also, yesterday, Trump, I think I said this on the market close or at the end of the market open, Trump is considering, as per Bloomberg, a White House crypto role, meaning someone who is overseeing everything in regards to crypto in the United States. That would be like a new role that they end up coming up with, and that would be someone who's the head of crypto for the United States. So you got someone who is the chairman of the SEC, or in this case, it might be a chairwoman of the SEC, who Trump is considering, who's historically been very pro-Bitcoin, working with someone who just manages crypto operations, probably creates the regulatory digital assets framework that a lot of the industry has been looking for in regards to the ecosystem. Again, you can love or hate the thesis, but at its core, these are things that are important to look at. And these are things that, in my opinion, are also a bit undeniable. What's also undeniable, Bitcoin ETFs have hit 100 billion in assets in total. These ETFs started in January, guys. Like this is pretty damn incredible. Year-to-date flows are flirting with more than 30 billion. That is double what Bloomberg's estimate was. They're now 97% of the way to passing Satoshi as the biggest holder, and 82% of the way to passing gold ETFs. So gold ETFs have not seen the type of momentum that Bitcoin ETFs have seen. By the way, I think the first gold, if I'm not wrong, the gold ETF was started in 2005 or 2004, so about 20 years ago. And that's when, a lot of people wanted to get into gold and it made sense, but gold has grown since then. And now it's a $17 trillion asset. Bitcoin's still at 1.8 trillion. There's a lot of room for growth. And if that growth continues to get more people that are excited, that is obviously very strong for Bitcoin. The other thing I think it's really important to remember, I know a lot of you guys are saying to talk about HOOD, so let's transition a little bit to some of the Bitcoin proxies and Robinhood, because so a lot of you guys in the chat might be thinking, okay, I get it. Maybe I missed the broader Bitcoin thesis, but I want to get some exposure to it. What's the way to get proxy? My thesis throughout the entire year has been Robinhood. Now, MicroStrategy probably was a better call. I couldn't stomach that volatility. I didn't really understand MicroStrategy. I'll talk more about MicroStrategy in a second, but I didn't fully get it. I get it a little bit more now as I'm listening to Saylor kind of explain his thesis, but I don't even think I would be able to stomach it if I brought it in January, because I like investing in real businesses, right? And I think businesses that have a tailwind, that are still cheap, in my opinion, relative to everything else that's out there, is Robinhood. Robinhood at $30 billion market cap, or $26 billion enterprise value, growing 36%, and crypto as a tailwind for them, along with all the other elements of the business. To me, is easy to stomach that business holding it at night, because I see what the future of Robinhood can be for Bitcoin. Now, here's the broader Bitcoin thesis in the context of Robinhood as well. There's a wealth transfer that's happening. There is a wealth transfer that's happening, and it's very important to understand this. I said this stat a couple weeks ago, but 90% of the people that hold Bitcoin are Gen X, baby boomers. So people that actually have money, that have made money in their life, and they wanted to allocate it to Bitcoin. 50% of the money that's owned in Bitcoin is Gen X and baby boomers. 90% of the wallets, the addresses for those wallets, are Gen Z and millennials. Gen Z and millennials are not going to start thinking backwards, right? Like, it would have to take something really different in the world, some big macro event for Gen Z. And I mean, we went through a pandemic. We went through a lot of different things over the past couple of years, and still Gen Z and millennials, what do? They bought the dip on Bitcoin. And so when you think of that wealth transfer, and you think of these Gen Z and millennials that are not going to say in the next 10 years, hey, instead of doing a 5,000 yearly DCA into S&P. I'm going to do 2,500 S&P, 2,500 Bitcoin, or 5,000 Bitcoin, 0 S&P. I mean, if that is what the world looks like 10 years from now, this asset class is likely in its infancy when we think about the wealth transfer. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, this thing can't come all the way back down to 60K. Obviously, we saw Bitcoin go from 70 to 15 from 2021 to 2022. So that can still happen. It's just a broader question of how do you get exposure to it. If you think the next 4 years are setting up for catalysts, I think Coinbase, MicroStrategy, the Marathon, all of these are good proxies, but Robinhood to me is kind of the creme de la creme when it comes to proxies, because they're a real business that has crypto as a tailwind. But if crypto goes away, it's not the only thing that is going to stop Robinhood from actually gaining momentum. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking about Bitcoin right now. We are seeing a lot of momentum. It's not really going anywhere, and Trump is bullish, which is why Bitcoin continues to do well. SoFi 1492 in the pre-markets right now. SoFi trying to gain some strength. Ethereum right here up 7% on the day at 3,300. Solana, I think, was up last night as well. So Solana is doing good. You got CleanSpark up about 4%. Williams Sonoma is up about 0.15%. You got Tesla right here up 0.31%. We'll talk about Tesla in a second. Oklo down a little bit, and then Affirm up 0.65%. Square, another crypto proxy, is up 1.44% currently right now. Amit, call me. Let's go over this more. All right, let's get Chris. Let's get Chris. Let's get Chris. Let's get over his marathon thesis, and let's see what he has to say as well. By the way, I'll wait till Chris is on the stream to show this.
I am unable to answer the phone right now. Please call back later or leave a brief.
Chris, how do you tell me to call me? And then so you're unable to, let's call you again. You guys are going to get a kick out of this. I got to show you guys this. All right, here we go. Chris, pick up. Chris, are you there? You know those voicemails that say, "Yo, you hear me?"
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. You know those voicemails that are like, "Hi, hello, sorry." You know those voicemails that act like they're like talking to you, but then yeah, that was like a 5th grade thing I used to do. Okay, so Chris, you're on the market open. Real quick, I got to show you guys something. Chris, you have a new profile picture.
Yep, I know.
All right. So first, why do you have this red eye profile picture? And then can you tell us a little bit more about your marathon thesis?
I mean, it's fun. I'm playing into it. You know, like everyone's like, you know, Saylor said it, like when you wake up to the idea of Bitcoin, like it's like, I was listening yesterday. It's like the first 5 hours, everyone's a skeptic. And then like they do a little bit more research. They're like, oh yeah, maybe this is something to look at. And then after they do like 1,000 hours of research, it's like, holy shit, what the hell is this?
Chris, you're retweeting Bitcoin bullish stuff. You're tweeting about Bitcoin. You're comparing Bitcoin to gold. Like, this is a full 180. And so for the people that are wondering how you did this 180, and then we'll get into marathon, I think the argument is just, hey, you kind of realize that the United States is not going to stop printing, and Bitcoin is the only thing that can store the value.
All right. So let me give you one of the main reasons why that I said like my awakening in this Bitcoin space. Number one, the legitimization has always been the key component that I needed to basically become confident behind this. You know, my argument has always been the traditional investor issue, which is I don't really know if this is a legitimate product. You know, so when legislation and government starts to back it as a form of storage of, you know, of value, that's like a complete 180, right? So definitely got me interested when I started to see BlackRock and all these other ETF providers. I mean, these are big money financiers starting to put their weight behind this asset class. So, you know, as much as like everyone's like, oh, look, some of these other guys, they recognize the value of this thing early. I get it. But it's almost like unless other people are valuing it the same thing that you are in a legitimate fashion, it's not the same thing. So as an example, like right now when you have Charizard cards, right, like for Pokemon, if they don't have the PSA grading system, it's not worth nearly as much. So that PSA grading system gives those Charizard cards from Pokemon the legitimacy that you need in order to say, okay, yeah, this is actually worth X and not Y. So there's a yardstick measuring system that, someone has to develop and get there, and then everyone has to accept those standards. And once it's standardized, then it's like, holy shit, this thing is not going to be going the other direction. I mean, yeah, of course, there's going to be volatility, but now there's a much, much larger pool of legitimate organizations, legitimate companies that are going to be able to utilize this as in the way that it originally was intended.
So one of those companies is Marathon. That's at 25.21, up 11%. You came on the show a couple days ago at 18.50.19. You said, hey, they're going to be the next MicroStrategy. And look, from what I'm seeing, the other miners are up 2-3% today, 4%. Marathon's up more than double that. Do you still believe in that thesis, and do you think Marathon will become the next MicroStrategy?
Well, I don't necessarily think it's going to become the quote unquote the next MicroStrategy, but what you have to understand about when it came to Marathon, and this is where me being a credit investor gave me a little bit of an edge, like maybe like a 2-hour edge above a lot of other people that were dumping Marathon the day before. There's a paradigm shift that happened the night before that people it went unnoticed. So, when they did the convertible debt offering, that was one thing. But then when you looked at night, the debt the offering was oversubscribed. Now, when something is oversubscribed, that means there was more demand than there was supply.
Right.
So that means that there are people out there willing to basically buy a giant call option on Bitcoin, and Marathon was the method that they were going to use for it. Now, Marathon's entire business model is very simple. They buy rigs, they mine Bitcoin, and then they make a profit on the spread between the cost of Bitcoin that they mine, right, and the price at which they sell it to run their operations. The entire dynamic just got flipped overnight. Basically, what happened was bond investors came in and said, look, stop selling the Bitcoins, hold them on the balance sheet. We'll give you free money. Here is money that we're going to give you today. So you don't have to look for money anymore. All you have to do is just hold this Bitcoin on your balance sheet. Because we think the value of that Bitcoin in the future is going to be way more than the price that you are selling it for today.
And they're not getting that money to like gold miners, for example.
Right. So now you're at a point where the business model for Marathon is we're going to produce the shit out of Bitcoin via mining, right? And the costs that are associated with it are going to be financed through this debt mechanism. But then on top of it, any excess cash that we get from issuing this debt, we're going to utilize that to build out more Bitcoin. I mean, dude, this is honestly kind of like a Ponzi. Like it feels very Ponzi scheme-ish, okay? And to some degree, this could very well backfire and take down Bitcoin as a whole eventually. So there's no whenever you're looking at leverage, there's a thing that Buffett and Munger said. There's only 3 things that'll take you out in this world. One is, I think, ladies, leverage, and liquor, right? So number 2 is leverage. So what essentially everyone is doing right now is applying leverage to buying Bitcoin. Now, the reason why I'm not worried, especially in the short to medium term, is because all these bonds, they come with specific rules that are associated. One of them is a maturity. So the maturity for this thing is way out into the future. So there's no calling on MicroStrategy. Like, let's say Bitcoin dropped to $20,000 or $5,000. Not one of those convertible bondholders can go to MicroStrategy and say, I want my money back.
So it's not, this is a good point of clarification. It's not really a margin call because they're giving them the money with the condition that they don't really have to pay it back if the value of the stock itself goes to 0.
Right. I have to look it through the covenants just to make sure that what I just said is factual, because I want to double check. I'm thinking about it now, and I might, let me double check on the covenant side just to see if there are any breach covenants where if the price of Bitcoin drops a certain amount, that there's some kind of liquidation event. I didn't see that from the press releases, but then again, I didn't read through the bond offering, so I have to double check on that. But the other part of it was that they got a premium, okay, for that. So the conversion price was at 26. not 18. It was trading at 18. They were able to get this conversion factor done with a 50% premium. So even if Marathon stock price, like goes down, basically they would just owe them cash. But that cash is literally like devalued cash in 5 years in the future. Like right now, imagine, and the analogy that I gave to somebody, to the people that I have on my Patreon was, imagine right now you have a house. It's worth $100,000. A bank comes to you and says, here, I'll give you a loan of 0%, right? For the next 5 years, right? For the value of your home plus 50%. So I'll give you $150,000. So you say, okay, no problem. You get that $150,000. Now the first part of that first house that you have is collateralized. What do you do with that $150,000? You buy another house. Then the bank comes to you again and says, hey, listen, you see this $150,000 house? I'll give you a loan for $225,000 and you collateralize it via this thing, and it's also 0%.
And then you literally are creating a house of cards.
Yes, exactly.
That was good.
Exactly.
All right, Chris, we got the market closed in or market open in 2 minutes. So your kind of final thoughts on this, and we can get you on after the market. I can call you back in like 10 minutes. But overall, you think Marathon is going to be a winner here?
Yeah, in the short to medium term, I think Marathon's going to be fine. And the thing is, remember, the houses are getting stockpiled under one person. So just like Marathon, what's happening is as they acquire more Bitcoin, that's putting a floor under the price. So if you look at Marathon, like just overall, look at the tangible book value. As long as that tangible book value keeps growing, the value of the stock is going to keep growing. So right now, tangible book, I think, is almost 2.5 billion. So about half the market cap of Marathon, or at least what it was covered by assets on the balance sheet, which is the Bitcoin. So now if they buy more Bitcoin, it's going to keep doing this over and over again. So.
All right. Well, look, man, we got to give you credit. You came on. You were pretty damn bullish on Monday. You said you think this is going to happen. You put your money where your mouth is, and it looks like it's happening.
Just want to say there was 3 people that I called. I called you, I called Adam Bergman, and I called and Steve. And I also texted Sam. But there was only 3 or 4 people that I called. I was like, look, this is something to take a look at. It was like 5:30 in the morning. But you were asking me the day before, Chris, what's another 5X that you're seeing? And I was like, there's nothing. And then literally it hit me like a light bulb, like a few hours after that. I was like reading through some of the releases, and
it was funny, dude. No, I don't know why I woke up there. I woke up at 3:30 that day. At 4:30, I got a call. I usually would be asleep. I got a call. Chris is like, I'm in Marathon. I was like, well, I'm used to sprinting. I'm not used to doing marathons. What are you talking about? Haha, that was another one. But he was like, you got to look into it. It looks like they're getting into Bitcoin, and they are indeed getting into Bitcoin. And now it will be a marathon to see Marathon's journey over the long term. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate your thoughts, and we'll talk to you later. Congrats on this one. You got this one right, it seems.
All right. Take care.
Take care. All right, everybody. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. Marathon opens up at $24.82, up 9.72% on the day. Not bad at all. MicroStrategy up 13% right now, 537. That means MSTX, which is very leveraged. I was talking to someone yesterday who is super, super leveraged on MSTX, which is already leveraged against MSTR. They're up a lot right now. MSTX at 25% up on the day. Absolutely incredible. Robin at 36.65 did not get the $37 open, but I do think we get back to 37, up 1.44% right now. Palantir goes green, up about 0.6%. Nvidia 150 all-time high on Nvidia. Sorry, guys, we got to ring the bell again. Wow, that's incredible. Derek, thank you for the 20 gifted memberships. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 20 gifted. 20 of you guys just got a gifted membership. Ben, Mohammed, Lloyd, Peter, Alan, you all got memberships. Thanks to Derek. Thank you, Derek, for those 20 gifted memberships. 151 on Nvidia, up 4%. Now it's looking like the street's getting their act together in terms of realizing a $2 billion beat and a 70% growth guidance raise is not bad. SoFi 1478. We have not touched $15 yet on SoFi, but Nvidia has officially hit an all-time high. Nvidia is the most valuable company on planet Earth. 3.73 trillion right now on Nvidia. Coinbase up 1.72%. HIMS is up 2.72%. Snowflake, look, I'm not the biggest fan of Snowflake, but I got to say, they had a good earnings. The stock was oversold. Steve talked about this last week on Friday. He said, you know what? It's oversold. It can probably bounce on any good news. They re-excited revenue to 28%, about $943 million in revenue. Stock-based compensation still is a concern, but it was a good quarter, 27% of the day. So congratulations for those that are in Snowflake. Palo Alto, also good quarter. They're down 2.54%. I guess they were kind of just priced a little bit too high for the street, and that's why they're selling off, but they beat on the top and the bottom line. Palantir, 62.91, trying to get to 63. Robinhood, 36.48. SoFi, 14.80. MicroStrategy, 5.24. You're getting a bit of a red candle right there from MicroStrategy. Again, MicroStrategy hit 500 for the first time yesterday, so it's been a while. I mean, a while meaning 48 hours since we've seen this $500 level, but it is holding $500 right now. CleanSpark's up 7%. Marathon is up 11%. MSTX is up 20%. Hood at 36.74. Palantir $63, back above 63. Palantir $143 billion market cap. Again, Snowflake at 27% up on the day. Target up 1% a little bit as well. And then Tesla at 344 currently right now. Where is Nvidia? Nvidia is at 150.72. It just hit 152.89, then got a bit of resistance. Let me check the 153s on Nvidia in terms of resistance. Let's take a look at that. Nvidia right here, 151. So we broke through the 150s. That resistance was gone. At 152, you got another 50,000 shares. And then at 153, because we almost were close to breaking that, we already broke 152. 153, we are looking at 171,000 shares. 171,000 to break through that. That is a decent amount of shares, but I think it is possible given we got so close. CleanSpark at 15.23, Hood at 36.67, Palantir 63.15, Ethereum up 7% of the day at 3,300. Look at the S&P at 592. S&P is doing well as well. S&P is not doing too bad. Reddit's having a great day. Again, the covered call premiums on Reddit. Dude, Reddit, I mean, I was looking at this at 124 on Monday. I didn't pull the trigger on this one, but if you do have Reddit, the covered calls are just absolutely phenomenal on this one. So Reddit right here at 142. Uber's up a little bit. Joby's up a little bit. Amazon's down. Okay, I think big tech's probably down today, and that's going into Nvidia. Let's see. Yeah, pretty much. Meta's down. Google's down. Amazon's down. Apple's down. Microsoft is slightly up. Nvidia's up 3%, and then Tesla is up 0.72%. So the market is selling off Meta, Google, Amazon, and Apple, and they're piling in to some more Nvidia. Nvidia now just falling right below 150. The fact that we broke 150, 151, and 152 to me means that we're coming back there. Just might take a little bit of time before we end up getting there. Not bad at all for Nvidia right here. MicroStrategy, let's take a look at them. MicroStrategy 525. Again, they're still holding 10%, even though they are dipping from that 540 range they were at in the pre-markets. The fact that the market's willing to pay MicroStrategy now $105 billion market cap. Palantir is still worth more than MicroStrategy, but the fact that the market's willing to pay, I think at this point, a 4.5x premium to net asset value, something around that range, maybe 3.8x. It's a hell of a premium. But then again, according to Saylor, why are you paying a 34x premium on Apple stock, right? Apple has a certain amount of earnings. The street right now is paying 30 to 34 times those earnings at a $3.46 trillion market cap. Why? Because you believe those products and services, those MacBooks, those AirPods are valuable. If you believe MicroStrategy services in terms of the Bitcoin treasury they're creating and the liquid options market they're creating is valuable, then yeah, you would be willing to pay that premium. So you got MicroStrategy right there, up currently right now. DE, they had earnings today. John Deere, they had earnings. They crushed on the top and the bottom line. They're up 3.85%. Let's take a look at Snowflake again. Snowflake right here up 28%. I think it just goes to show you when something's oversold in the stock market, there is so much liquidity that if you put up good numbers, you can still win. Snowflake is still down about 10% year to date. It was down about 30% year to date, so it's recovering a little bit of what it was down on. But 164 currently right now at 27% on Snowflake. Doug says the current MSTR holdings are 4.5x, but he can buy more today if he wants, and you are instantly representing more Bitcoin. Yeah, that's fair. And that comes down to the kind of house of cards Ponzi scheme that is, yes, a definition of a Ponzi scheme, but it also makes sense when you think about it in the broader scheme of things that allows them to continue getting access to more Bitcoin and potentially showing a higher premium. You know, when people call MicroStrategy a Ponzi scheme, I get it. it's just like, the people that are giving him this much money to buy Bitcoin, these are sophisticated money managers, right? Like these are not people that are expecting this to go to shit. Yeah, could it go to shit? Yes. But you don't raise at this point, what he's raised over $10 billion of interest-free cash or very low interest cash to do this strategy if $10 billion of demand isn't out there, you know? And this is not retail just saying, oh, here, Michael Saylor, take my money. This is like professional grade investors saying, all right, well, we're willing to take a risk on the strategy. And it is a risk, but it is a risk that potentially can work at the end of the day. Also, you know, the other reason I got sympathetic to MicroStrategy is because, you know, I'm thinking of Palantir, and we're paying 50 times price of sales right now for Palantir. Now, look, I think Palantir is expensive right now at 50 times price of sales, even though I think their long-term potential is amazing. But I have to ask myself, I have to be humble for a second. How am I saying MicroStrategy is overvalued at a 4x premium to its net asset value? But I'm over here saying, yeah, you know, I'm not literally saying this, but, you know, metaphorically, 50 times price of sales, we can justify that somehow. It's like you have to kind of check yourself and say, all right, so you can't say Palantir is like amazing, but then people can't pay a little bit of a premium for MicroStrategy. You can't say Apple, which is not growing, is amazing at 30x times its net income, but MicroStrategy people can't pay 4x. You know, and I think those comparisons kind of put it in perspective in terms of why people end up buying MicroStrategy. Bitcoin right here, right below 97,000, 96,994, right back at 97. So trying to hold this 97,000 level. Marathon up 11%, CleanSpark up 5% of the day. Robinhood 3650. Robinhood trying to get back to 37. I think it gets back to 38. The momentum is there. I think this is algos right now, kind of selling it off. It's baked in a decent amount of growth since Bitcoin. I like it consolidating from 35 to 37. I think that's amazing. Every close above 35 gets us closer and closer to that $40 range. And I think November metrics, which are going to be coming out in a month, that'll probably highlight that Robinhood's crypto volumes are up, and the street probably gets more excited about that as well. Where is the S&P? Where is the S&P? Are we getting a little bit of a red candle? Yeah, we're getting a little bit of a red candle right there, 589 on the S&P. So we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks that the 1030 market slam in terms of algos in general selling off has started to happen around 930, 935. And, you know, within the first 5 minutes, you get this big boost up, and then you got, you know, people start taking some profits. I mean, look at Palantir, 63 to 61. So by the end of the day, kind of reverses itself to an extent. And now that Nvidia earnings crushed and the market was able to give Nvidia that momentum, it's just a question of how much further momentum they can give to Nvidia. Nvidia just turned red. There you go. The fact that it broke 150 to me is very, very bullish. That is a good thing, regardless of Nvidia's red right now. And it shows that the street has the potential to buy up this stock. It might just take them some time to ultimately get there. Okay, the reason Google's red right now is because the judge that ruled that Google was a monopoly yesterday also ruled that they agree with the DOJ's suggestion of breaking up Chrome, which I think is the literal dumbest thing ever. And they ordered Google to break up Chrome. Now, is Google going to break up Chrome? No, because Google is a $2.8 trillion company, $2.08 trillion company. They're going to appeal this. They're going to have all their lawyers fight back. And so I think this is going to be litigated for a long time. And then maybe when you get a new person running the DOJ, when the Trump administration comes in, Trump might just tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, let it go. Let's not worry about it. Or maybe Trump might say, hey, look into it because Google was censoring, you know, conservative speech. I don't know how Trump's going to handle this, but that's why Google's down right now 4%. I think getting rid of Chrome would be the weirdest thing ever. I can't imagine another company owning Chrome and like being integrated into the Google ecosystem. But I don't think it's ultimately going to happen. So down 4% right here. If you buy it right now, you're kind of buying it with the assumption that the DOJ is not going to make Google actually break this up. Robinhood right here, 3620, SoFi 1472. Let's check resistance for 15 on SoFi because I think we could get 15 here today as well. Doug says all they need to do is appeal 2 months. Elon got on that call with Sundar and the deal was already made. Interesting thesis. For those that missed the article yesterday from The Information, Sundar and Trump were on a phone call and Elon said hi. And apparently Sundar, 233,000 shares at 15 for SoFi. So it's a decent amount of shares, but I think it's possible. Apparently Sundar was very confused why Elon was on the call. Just imagine that, bro. You're trying to talk to the president and like, you know, one of your competitors, they do compete with Waymo versus FSD, is on the phone. And a New York Post article came out yesterday saying that Trump and Elon are inseparable and they are acting like they are best friends. And that it is Elon is Trump's closest confidant outside of anybody else. So I think that is why Tesla continues to get the premium, and Tesla, you know, at the end of the day is seen as like the biggest beneficiary ultimately of the Trump trade. GameStop is up as well. Yeah, GameStop 28.80. It was at 20 last month. I know a lot of people are thinking December $30 is on the way. The December open interest for $30 strikes on the call side is very large as well. So you do have some people waking up to GameStop as the broader market shows momentum. MicroStrategy right here at 12%. Speaking of Elon, here's a tweet last night I think a lot of people haven't seen yet. Saw this tweet and I thought it was pretty damn incredible to see this tweet in real time. This just goes to show you how close Elon and Donald Trump actually are. Elon, last night at 1:20 a.m., just learned tonight at Mar-a-Lago, which is where Trump is, that Jeff Bezos was telling everyone that real Donald Trump would lose for sure, so they should sell all their Tesla and SpaceX stock. Think about that. Think about that. Elon's partying at Mar-a-Lago, and he's hearing from all the close confidants near Trump that Bezos was saying that Trump is going to lose, so you should sell your Tesla and your SpaceX private shares, because a Harris administration would be horrible for Tesla, which it seems now, given what's happened with Tesla, it probably would be horrible for Tesla. It's kind of weird because Bezos, I think, secretly did want Trump to win, though, because he stopped the Washington Post from endorsing Harris. But he still felt Trump would lose, as per Elon's tweet. Forget what your opinions are on that tweet. The fact that Elon has access to that information because he's in Mar-a-Lago is it's mind-blowing, the relationship he's creating with Trump. And I think it's undeniable what that does for Tesla. Also, one other thing on Tesla, I showed you guys yesterday, Kim Kardashian and Optimus kind of taking, let's just call it friendly pictures together. I think my thesis is that Tesla will announce something on Optimus in the next 6 months. They are not sending Optimus to one of the biggest celebrities on the planet for fun. They are doing it to start probing everybody to get ready for a big piece of Optimus news. And I think in the next 6 months, we're going to see something, if not in the next 12 months, or if not in the next 3 months, most likely in 6 to 12 months. There's got to be something. Otherwise, you would not send Optimus to Kim Kardashian, which means the street, I don't think, has factored that in as well. Google now taking it on the chin right here, down 4.3%. I don't think Google deserves to fall on this. I think this is really stupid, but the street is selling it off based off Chrome. Robinhood 36.34, SoFi 14.82, Marathon 24.88, CleanSpark 14.33. Let's look at some of the other crypto proxies. Coinbase is down 3%. Again, Coinbase went from 160 to 320, so we got to be a little patient with Coinbase. They do have a very large premium. They doubled before Bitcoin really doubled. So street's kind of just selling it off right here and bringing the premium down a little bit back to normal. MicroStrategy, on the other hand, continues to get the premium, but people like betting on MicroStrategy, and that's what is what's keeping that premium continued to be higher, up about 11% currently on the day. We got Zocold in the chat buying Google. Put in the chat if you're buying Google on this. Put in the chat if you are buying Google on this news. Rob, thank you for the $50 super chat. Appreciate that. Amit, Palantir did great after the S&P inclusion. What are your thoughts on the aftermath of a possible NASDAQ 100 inclusion? I think it's bullish, but I do think it is baked in to an extent. So I think the reason Palantir is at 63, it was at call it 57 before the NASDAQ news, is pricing in that NASDAQ inclusion. Now, granted, Palantir went from 29 to 35 after the S&P news, and then we went from 35 to 60 after the S&P inclusion happened. So I don't know if we get into the Qs in December. I think there's a shot, most likely in the first half of 2025, but maybe that's not fully priced in. And so, would they be buying on fundamentals? No, but they would be buying because they need to have exposure as per being an ETF and having your portfolio allocation sizing. And so I think that's bullish. I don't think there's anything bearish about it. The only bearish thing about Palantir is if they miss their numbers, which I don't think they're going to do next quarter or the quarter after that. Or the quarter after that, or the quarter after that. I think it's a growth story. I think the multiple is stretched, but I don't think they're missing the numbers. And that to me is, outside of a macro event, what could really hurt them. And they're normalizing. They're normalizing in these 50s and 60s. Snowflake right here at 167 right here, up 29.2% on the day. TSM is up right now. Vertiv is up. Let's take a look at all the semis. Yeah, all of them are green except ASML, ON, Intel, and AMD. Nvidia is trying to fight back for that 150 level, up about 0.76%. SMCI is up 6% because Jensen mentioned their name yesterday, and I think the street was like, okay, thank God he actually still thinks of them as a real company. TSM is up, Marvell is up, ARM is up, Lam Research is up, Micron is up, and Dell is up 2% on the day. Marcus says, anyone, Hood or Marathon or neither at this level? It's a good question. Let's see what the chat thinks. Hood or Marathon? If you had to buy Hood or Marathon, what would you say? Which one would you pick? Hood or Marathon? We got a bunch of people also saying they would be buying Google. Nisha is buying Google. Toilet Dweller is buying Google. Christopher's buying Google. I selling puts on Google. I don't hate that either. This is a company that does $88 billion of revenue per quarter. I mean, trading at a 20 times PE. I know there's some risks involved with it, which is why it's trading at these levels. but I don't think they're going to have to sell off Chrome. Now, if they do, the stock could tank further, and you got to factor that in if you're buying Google. If they actually have to sell off Chrome, I think we could see a material drawdown of at least 4 to 5% more, because that's just not bullish to me at all. But I think they will appeal it and try to get out of that. There was a William Simona CEO interview on CNBC. Okay, we'll watch that later. We'll watch the William Simona. Oh, I didn't know. William Simona CEO did interview. All right. We'll take a look at how they justify selling $1,000 pots and pans. We will look at that. All right, so kind of mixed. Some people saying Hood, some people saying Marathon. Look, I think they both make sense. I would go with Hood simply because it's a real business that I understand. Marathon, at the end of the day, is not a business. They are a proxy for Bitcoin via having it on the balance sheet. And you're betting that they can do what Bitcoin is doing, what MicroStrategy is doing with the Bitcoin treasury, which is fine. I think it's a fair strategy. I bought some leaps after Chris explained his thesis. I think it makes sense. So that's fair. Robinhood to me is going after the entire financial services ecosystem. Like Robinhood to me is a triple digit stock over the long term. I believe, by 2030, that thing does happen based on how the crypto ecosystem evolves. I think it could happen earlier than that. It is harder to put a premium on Robinhood because they're not like a Microsoft, Apple type of tech company where you can just immediately put a crazy premium, but they are a tech company that's growing. And the problem with them is their revenues are so inconsistent because it's cyclical, right? If the market has 2 bad years, like Robinhood's trading volumes are going to fall really bad. And if that does happen, I will buy the crap out of that dip if it goes back into the 15s or 20s, because I think that's where it would go, quite frankly, if we enter into a bear market, because they're just not going to be making as much money. Whereas Microsoft, they'll decline, but Microsoft has recurring revenues that are always going to be there, which is why that premium is justified. However, if you think the next 4 years are bullish for crypto and the broader markets, I don't see another company that's innovating unlike Robinhood. And so I think they're going after everything. I think long-term, they're going to be the next Charles Schwab. To me, it's like a real 10, 15-year hold. And I think long-term, it can be a very, very strong company. SoFi right here at 1482. SoFi kind of same thesis. It's not as innovative as Robinhood, and it's not, creating as many products as Robinhood, but SoFi is a neobank. And if you think more people are going to be banking with SoFi than JP Morgan by proportion via Gen Z millennials over the next 10 years, SoFi at a $16 billion market cap likely is higher 10 years from now. And that's why we're seeing SoFi get some of that momentum. Affirm right here, 63.76. Square at 90. Netflix was upgraded to $1,000 by Bank of America today. They're down a little bit right now at 880, but they are at 880. So that is not bad for Netflix. What price does SoFi have to be included in with the S&P? Okay, I think someone said yesterday they're like a couple $1 billion away from having the market cap to be included in the S&P 500. I know Robinhood is available for it next year, and I think it can legit happen for Robinhood. Yeah, 18 billion. So SoFi's at 16. So Robinhood's at 33. So Robinhood's good. Robinhood's at 32.4. They have a good shot of, I think, getting in next year as long as they keep executing. And they're gap profitable. SoFi's $2 billion away. So $2, because I think every dollar is a billion shares for SoFi. So it's a billion up. So call it $17, 1680 is what SoFi needs to be to get into the S&P, which I believe likely can happen. Jobless claims. So I posted in the chat, but we didn't talk about it. Jobless claims came in at a 7-month low. That's also probably why the markets were pretty damn bullish this morning. So take a look at this. U.S. initial jobless claims. Expectation was 220,000. We came in at 213,000. This is the least amount of people filing for unemployment benefits since April of 2024. If you look at the chart right here, take a look at that. That's a nice decline month over month, and definitely over the past 6 months. October, we had 260,000. That's what kind of spooked markets a little bit. It was a little bit higher than expected. And then it just came down and came down and came down. So this whole idea of recession, unemployment, people are going to lose their jobs. People don't have enough money to then pay their bills, which means companies are going to suffer. People have jobs, bro. People have jobs. And if they have jobs, then they're going to be spending. Now, we can get into the whole, how much credit are they spending? How much personal savings? Those are other discussions. But at the end of the day, the data is showing that people do indeed have jobs, unless those numbers get crazy revised. But usually payrolls get revised, not jobless claims, not as much. So if there's not that many people filing for unemployment, you do have a more healthier economy with money that's out there. I thought it was 8 billion for S&P. No, it's 18 billion. So 18 billion I thought it was 12 billion, but it's 18 billion. So Palantir obviously was eligible. Hood is eligible. I think SoFi will be eligible. Tesla's up 1.65%. All right. GameStop as well, 29.13. Nvidia trying to make its way back at 148, up 1.7%. S&P just went green. Look at that. So those algorithmic sell-offs that we saw at 942-ish, at 951, we're seeing a little bit of a change. Look at Bitcoin. Wow. Talk about a green candle. fell all the way to 96.5, now back in 97.5. Ethereum at 3,300. Marathon up 13%. It was just up like 9%. So you got a 4% increase in the spawn of basically 5 minutes. Qs are at 503. HIMS, if you bought the dip on HIMS at 17, congrats. That's up at 22. Target's up a little bit. Williams Simona is down 2.75% today. It was up 20% yesterday, though, so taking a little bit of a breather. And then Oklo is up as well. Let's take a look at ELF. ELF got shorted yesterday by some Wall Street firm called Muddy Waters. ELF is up right now, and they were barely down yesterday. They were down like 2-3%. They were down like 11% at one point. So Street kind of was like, all right, this is stupid. The short report was like, oh, they misreported their revenues by 200 million. And I'm like, I don't think so, bro. Like, I listened to the ELF management call. That CEO is phenomenal. I don't think they misreported their revenues by $200 million. If they did, yeah, stock should tank 50%. I don't think that happened. And when you got a short firm putting out that claim, that's a hell of a claim you got to back up. And I don't necessarily think they have the evidence for that. Rocket Lab right here is up 3% right now. All right. Rocket Lab getting some momentum, up 2.39% on the day. That is not bad. Someone says Robinhood is just for degens. I disagree with that. I really, really disagree with that. I do not think Robinhood is just for degens. Robinhood to me is becoming an integrated platform. Are there a lot of people that like to take more bets on the platform? Yeah, because you have a younger generation that is liking the gamification of the platform. But dude, they have $12 billion under custody for retirement. That's money that's relatively stable, not going anywhere. And that's money that's kind of just stuck on their platform, just compounding in the machine that is the stock market. And then, by the way, that number was 1.5 billion in January. So that's a 10x increase in less than 10 months on a product that has nothing to do with like taking risks. It's your retirement account. So to me, I mean, like, I think they're becoming a full-fledged platform. And the amount of people that I hear every day talk about how much they love their Robinhood card or how much they just love using the interface, they're going after the entire financial services ecosystem, in my opinion. And they're executing. They're executing at a very, very, very high level. Okay, what else do we have? Marathon is still up right now. Snowflake, wow, 30% on the day. Steve called me yesterday on the market close on Friday. He said we need to take a look at Snowflake. He didn't end up buying Snowflake. And I told him, you still got some Palantir in you that just doesn't let you do it. It just doesn't let you do it, even though I agreed with you. When he said at 125 it was oversold, I was like, yeah, you're right. It is oversold. And, anyone who bought it would be up 30% right now. But I think the Palantir in his blood couldn't let him do it. Even though he's underwater on the covered calls, the Palantir in his blood was not letting him do it. Wow, look at Archer above $5. When did Archer get above $5? Look at that. Not bad. Not bad at all. Shout out to Archer. $5. They did get upgraded to $11 the other day, which is great for Archer. Nisha and Nihit said, I made 340% profit on Snowflake. Congratulations to you. That is incredible. Did you do that through options? I feel like you had to, most likely. You probably got what? Let me guess, the 150 call, maybe 145 call. I think that probably got you that 340%. Amazon right here at 201. Amazon still below, the breakout range from 215. In that 200 level. Boeing's down 1.4%. Where's Enphase? Disney is down a little bit on the day. Enphase is up 1.25%. Enphase up from that 59 low that we saw last week. Now it's 64.18. Roblox is down a little bit. TLT actually up a little bit. Where's the 10-year? Let's take a look at the 10-year. 10 years at 4.388%. 4.3. So the 10-year is coming as well. Where's MSTR? 492. All right, MSTR is falling. You're seeing some red on MSTR. Again, it is trading at a pretty substantial premium compared to their net asset value. That is always the risk to understand with MSTR. Also, in Chris's thesis is that people are dumping MSTR to get into Marathon. Now, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen as easily, but I do think that is possible if people find out what's happening with Marathon. And really, not a lot of people are finding out what's happening with Marathon. I was on Twitter yesterday. I was looking at some of the posts under the Marathon thread, and people were saying, hey, this is possible, but I don't think it's become widespread kind of mainstream information that Marathon is doing what MicroStrategy is doing. But we could see a little bit of rotation happening right there right now. Still, dude, MicroStrategy at freaking 492 is just absolutely incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. It's up more than 500%. Literally this year. Where are bonds going, Amit? It's a good question. I don't think anyone really has the answer to it. We are seeing people buy up some of these bonds right here, which is why the 10 years going down. Maybe investors thinking, hey, it's not as big of a deal for the inflation expectations we had for tariffs. We don't really know what's going to happen with tariffs. Maybe some of these Trump cabinet picks are making the market feel tariffs are not going to be as inflationary as we thought. We will get money market inflows today after the bell. Last week, they increased by 81 billion. So this week, we're going to see if they decrease or if they continue to increase over the past week, and kind of see how the money markets are thinking about this. Qs just went red. Rocket Lab still up 2.2%. Robin at 36.74, trying to get back to 37. SoFi 14.77. Palantir still green 62.63. Tesla green 3.44, and Nvidia at 1.45, just barely going green on the day. What's the story for Grabamit? So I bought some more Grab yesterday. I've said it before. I will have a solid Sam Solid, that's his name, on the market close today, probably at like 4:15, and we'll talk about it and we'll go in depth. The thesis is that they're profitable now. They are the Uber of Southeast Asia within certain jurisdictions. There's some places they can't go in, but Singapore, Malaysia, for example, are places that they're present in. And free cash flow is starting to turn positive, and they have a consolidated base of about 3 years. If you see this right here, from 2022 to basically 2025, because call it 2 years, from $2 to $3. And the reason you're seeing this green candle right here is because they're profitable. And if they continue profitability, getting this thing to $8-10, which is 80%, a double from here, is not the craziest idea in the world. So it is one of those things you hold for a while. It's not going to happen overnight. Morgan Stanley put an $8 price target on them. It seems like they're starting to get more momentum. And that's the simple thesis. But we'll have Sam on today on the show to go more in depth and try to see what we've got with Grab. Sachin in the chat as well says Uber and WeChat of SEA. Correct. Uber and WeChat of Southeast Asia. That is the overarching thesis. Sachin is also in this play, for those that are wondering. So Sachin, Chris, and Sam, who you guys will hear from today on the market close, they are pretty big on Grab right now. And the fintech component of it with financial services, Uber and WeChat with a fintech banking license. So there are financial services that are growing the most in Grab, and I think that's also what's getting a lot of people excited, because then it can become like a pseudo super app. Reddit's up 5.7%, dude. This one is just running away. Reddit is one of the top performing stocks of the year, up more than 300%. So Reddit has had an absolutely phenomenal year. And the thing is, it's not really cheap now, but at 25 billion, now that they're profitable, it's a little expensive at 22 times price to sales, just a little bit. But back when this was $100 or like $80, it was, the numbers actually were much cheaper. But I think the risk reward is a bit skewed now on Reddit. Although long term, I think selling puts on this and having some shares, not the worst thing in the world, because they're not going back to not being profitable. Also, their advertising business is just exploding. Now, Twitter might be a headwind because advertisers are coming back to Twitter. A lot of them left Twitter, went to Reddit. So we'll have to see kind of what that looks like next quarter. But profitability is what's keeping Reddit a lot higher. Microsoft right here at 415. C3 AI is up 6%. They had a partnership with Microsoft yesterday. That's why they were up yesterday, or 2 days ago. That's why they were up like 20%. Micron's up 1.46%. Small caps are up a little bit. Disney's up a little bit. Domino's up 0.24%. Enphase 64. Robin at 36.73. Palantir 62.85. Bitcoin 97,000. It did hit 98,000 this morning. Currently right now at 97,000. Hey, Mick, could you talk about Druckenmiller's investment into Argentina? Yeah, so he went into a bunch of stocks, but the main ticker is RGT, which is a global Argentinian ETF, which I believe is up 30% this year, a little bit more than that. This one is up year to date 63%, so up more than 50%. The thesis was that Milei is going to liberalize the country. And that's quite literally it. Druckenmiller talked about it. He was like, it's not that complicated. He's like, we're going to have a lot more capitalism. They have a ridiculous inflation rate. We need to bring that down. To bring that down, you need to have a lot of growth, products and services. And he believes Milei is going to do that. And that's why the market's betting on this as one of the best emerging markets. Now, India is also another good emerging market, in my opinion, but Argentina just has had very little capitalism for a very long time. And so now that that's breaking, you would expect them to kind of see the most momentum. And so that's the bet. Now, we really need to have good products and services in Argentina that create a real liberalized economy. So until that happens, it's yet to be seen, but it is starting to happen, which is why Druckenmiller went into Argentina. Where's Snowflake right here? I think it's the best performer today. Yeah, look at that, 31%, 170 on Snowflake. One of the best performers this year. Ian says, do you invest in any index funds, Mitt? I do not. However, my goal is next year to invest in a lot more safer things, including index funds, and obviously a lot of the mainstream ETFs that are easily investable, like the SPY, the Q, the Dow Jones, and Berkshire Hathaway. I mean, I'm kind of thinking next month I want to do a monthly DCA into these 5 ETFs: S&P, Qs, Dow Jones, Berkshire Hathaway, and then IBIT. Whatever price Bitcoin's at, you know what? You just get your DCA, you hold on to it for the long term, and it is what it is. So I think those 5 as a real DCA monthly, I'd probably do it in my solo 401k as well. Just like every month, try to put in whatever I can in there. And, maybe that's kind of the DCA strategy to keep the retirement account a little bit more safer. But, long-term, if you're betting on tech, whether it's Amazon, Microsoft, Tesla, whatever it is, the Qs should go higher. And if you're betting on America, the S&P should be higher. So regardless of what happens now, look, maybe I'm going to be paying an expensive multiple next year, but if growth continues, you had Evercore yesterday said, hey, we think 6,600 next year by June. You have Goldman Sachs saying 6,500 by the end of the year. It is going to be really interesting to see kind of how these analysts make their projections going into next year. And you got Dan Ives saying tech's going to grow another 25% next year. So next year is going to be really interesting to see if tech can actually live up to that momentum. And if it does, 2023 to 2025 might just be, one of the best broader bull markets that we've seen in a long time. Qs are down 0.5%. Yeah, Qs are going down right now. People are taking some profits. Enphase up a little bit. Rocket Lab still up. Hood at 3640. Breaking through 35, which is really good. Kind of consolidating right here. And Palantir still at 62.72, breaking through that 62 level. I guess the dip was 58 on Monday. I mean, I don't know, dude, anymore. Like if people continue to buy it in the 60s, then it is what it is. Again, to me, they've got to have a crappy earnings for this to collapse, or the market's got to collapse. But if those things don't happen, there you go. Maybe you got 62 on Palantir continuing to maintain momentum. Don't worry, it goes up in a bit. Why is Google down 5%? The DOGE is forcing them to sell off Chrome. That's why Google is down 5% right here. Dude, I don't know, dude. I feel like Google is an easy buy. I feel like it's a very easy buy. I think this is so stupid, but you can't deny the DOJ risk actually becoming real. I think it won't become real, but I think investors just don't want to deal with the risk when there's all these other opportunities. Wow, MicroStrategy just went red, folks. Slightly green. You got maybe a little bit of a gap fill from 540 to 470. Now, granted, 3 days ago, it was at 330. So I think we got to keep that in perspective. But this is the volatility that I was not able to stomach all year. If you're in MicroStrategy, you have to be able to stomach this volatility. I chose not to this year at all. And that's why I don't have the MicroStrategy gains that some people have. But this is one of those things where, 540 to 470, almost down $80 in 30 minutes. This is what happens. This is what happens with this stock. So people selling it off right here a little bit. Bitcoin, 96,888. The funny thing is every time MicroStrategy sells off, people just believe that Bitcoin's going to go higher. MicroStrategy is going to raise more money to buy more Bitcoin. So they just buy more MicroStrategy stock on the dip and it ends up working out. And Saylor buys more Bitcoin. So they get more exposure to Bitcoin. Like it's the wildest thing ever. Also, did you guys know, we got Derek Wall in the chat saying buy more. Did you guys know? Actually, let me ask the chat. Let's see what you guys say. Let me see if I'm the only one who didn't know this. Don't ChatGPT this. Don't Google this. When will the last Bitcoin be mined? Put it in the chat. You know what? Let's do a $25 Amazon gift card to the first person who gets this. $25 Amazon gift card to the first person who gets this. Let's see. Don't ChatGPT it. When will the last Bitcoin be mined? What's the year? First one I see, I will give I got it. Sith Master 2140. You are correct. Please message me on Twitter. Adam, it is investing. It's in the chat. You will get a $25 Amazon gift card. Thank you for being part of the channel. 2140. 2140 is the number. Now, I didn't know this. I found out last night. Okay. I found out from Derek, who told me, it was like, do you know this? I was like, no. He's like, how the fuck do you not know this? I was like, what? I'm supposed to know this? Like, you need to know this. And did you guys also know that the last Bitcoin will take 2 cycles to mine in 2140, meaning it will take 8 years to mine the last Bitcoin. 8 years to mine the last Bitcoin. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, there's 2 components to this. If the last Bitcoin is going to be mined in 2140, so I probably won't be around during that time, but it is what it is. My kids will have access to see that happen. And then it'll take 8 years to mine that Bitcoin. What does that mean? It means this asset is freaking scarce. Like it's not like gold where they find a ton of gold every other day in different places. Like this is one of those things that is going to be so precious to have if the world doesn't collapse in the next 100 years. And the fact that it will take 8 freaking years, a decade to mine this thing in 2140 just shows you how valuable it is from a pure finite scarcity perspective, not from like a use case perspective, but from a pure finite scarcity perspective in regards to how we think about the concept of Bitcoin itself. And as you can see right there, Derek says 8 years to mine 1 Bitcoin. He told me that yesterday and it blew my mind, bro. It blew my mind because I've always known there's only 21 million and there's actually like 19 million because a bunch of Bitcoin is lost and all that stuff. But when you think about it from that perspective, you're like, oh, so paying 96,000 for this, maybe it's cheap, maybe it's expensive, but in the long-term scheme of things, if you believe in the finite scarce nature of how capital markets allocate capital based on just pure basic econ 101 of supply and demand, if there's any level of demand for Bitcoin in 2140, and there's a incredibly limited amount of supply, then you could argue that this thing is going to be worth a lot more. So, Robert Kiyosaki said something yesterday as well. Doug messaged me about this. This was interesting. For your child right now, is the best thing saving $200,000 for a college fund or buying 2 Bitcoin? Let's say your kid's 5 years old right now. By the way, no one take your kid's college tuition after hearing me say this and buy Bitcoin. Please, I am just putting this out there as like a thought experiment. But Robert Kiyosaki said, and I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, but he basically said, instead of saving $200,000 for your kid's college retirement, what if you just buy them 2 Bitcoin? And by the time they're 18, think about what happens. Think about what happens. I mean, but if they're 5 years old right now, in 13 years, is that 200,000 you saved to go send them to Harvard to learn about how America is evil going to be better than, I'm just joking, by the way, but is that going to be better than Bitcoin? It's a hell of an argument. It's not financial advice. No one do this. Please, no one in 13 years. I better not get a DM from someone saying, Amit, my kid could have went to Harvard. And now he has 2 fucking worthless pieces of coins that are worth $7 each. Michael Saylor's fucking getting prosecuted across the world, and it's all because of what you said on November 21st. Please, no one do that. But I do think if you do that over the long term in 13 years, I think those $200,000 will be worth more in Bitcoin. That's kind of my opinion on this. And it's one of those things that makes you just think about the nature of scarcity, finite resources, and overall capital formations from a supply and demand perspective. So those 2 stats yesterday blew my mind. It just blew my mind in thinking of how Bitcoin could be one of those asset classes that overall can appreciate over time due to how scarce that it is. So that's what we got in the context of Bitcoin right now. Or you could just buy SoFi Leaps for your kids. Can you buy 20, 30 SoFi Leaps for your kids? Is that possible? Is that possible? Harvard will be 100% AI by then. Dude, I think the legacy institutions will survive, but I think there will be a fundamental devaluing of those brands. Maybe not like the Harvard and Stanfords of the world, because their brand is just like, their brand is really good, bro. Like the Harvard and Stanford brand. And they make sure the brand stays good by eliminating, 99% of the people that apply so that they remain exclusive. Now, look, all the stuff where kids are on campuses protesting over some like really weird stuff, that's definitely not helping their brand in the larger scheme of things. But if you get into Harvard and Stanford, you are still seen as one of the elite members of society, of like planet Earth. And so by 2030, for those brands to degrade, we would need to see like a fundamental paradigm shift in America. I don't know if that would happen, but it seems like that may be the case. They accepted you, Derek. Derek did go. Yeah, you're right. Derek did go to Harvard Business School. Yeah, that's right. About 10 years ago. That is true. You did your thesis in Harvard Business School. I got waitlisted from Harvard in 2016, and then they rejected me. Waitlisted is such a it's like blue balls, bro. They're like, hey, like, we'll contact you soon in like February when everyone gets to this, and then in May they're like, yeah, you're fucking stupid. Get out of here. So that's what ended up happening with me in Harvard. Princeton waitlisted me as well. Then they rejected me. Stanford just straight up rejected me. Stanford was just straight up like, nah, bro, you're not smart enough. You're not smart enough to do this. But again, I've said many times, I think it's really good that I got rejected from those schools. I don't think I would be here today if I was so coddled in the, oh, I'm a Harvard graduate. Look at me in my fancy consulting firm because I graduated from Harvard. Like, dude, like, it's so fucking boring, bro. It's like, I watch these day in the life videos of people on TikTok going to their consulting jobs, graduating Ivy League schools. They go to the office, they type some stuff, they get Starbucks, they go to happy hour, they come back home, they do it all again. Like, it's just not, it's not the most interesting thing to meet, And if you went to Harvard, I feel like you should have a much more interesting life. But all of them are they're so conformative because they can't think outside of the box because, you know, the Harvard brand keeps them like protected, thinking that they're so elite. And then they end up doing some like stuff that just, to me, is boring. So I'm happy I went to Rutgers and my general New Jersey state school. Amit, what are your thoughts on Dogecoin? I like Dogecoin. I don't have any of it. I think it will do well in the broader crypto ecosystem. Dogecoin right here down about 1%. Crypto, you know, Bitcoin, I think for Dogecoin to get to $1, I think Bitcoin needs to get closer to like 130, 140. I just think you need a lot of momentum on Bitcoin for that to happen. Independently, again, a lot of these altcoins independently, I think they all go to shit unless Bitcoin maintains its value. That's why when Steve is like, oh, you got to be bullish Ripple, I'm like, Steve, you can't be bullish Ripple and not be bullish Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin falls to 50,000, say, I can guarantee you Ripple is not staying at $1. You know, so Bitcoin is the, ironically, digital gold standard of the crypto ecosystem. And I think Dogecoin does well if Bitcoin itself does well. Alex, you're having some PayPal issues. Yeah, I got a text by a friend this morning who runs PayPal for his business, and he said that he's having PayPal issues. So it looks like PayPal is having some problems. PayPal's stock right now is up a little bit, but they are having a little bit of some payment processor issues right now. So it seems like that is happening for a lot of different people. DP, Rutgers class of 2020, rah, rah. I love it. Oh, I was Rutgers class of 2022, DP. All right, that's great. We graduated from where we both didn't have a graduation because of the pandemic, which, by the way, I was really happy, dude. I went to my sister's graduation. I did not want to sit there for 7 hours seeing people I don't know walk across the stage and get a diploma. Like, that to me just sounded like torture. So I was the happiest person when they were like, yeah, the graduation's canceled. My mom was crying. She's like, I want to see you walk across the stage. I was like, thank God, bro. I do not want to walk across the stage. Like, it was just because I really didn't take college seriously by my senior year, dude. Like, by my senior year, I realized, like, I'm just not going down the traditional path. I don't think college is that exciting. I didn't even apply to jobs, bro. Like, senior year, all my friends were applying to Google and JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. And I was over here. I had a small consulting business on the side, so I was working a lot. And I was just like, I'll figure it out. I'll fucking figure it out. And my parents weren't that upset because I was, making decent money for my consulting firm. And so they were just like, all right, like, we can't, if he's making money, we can't really say anything. And, through the journey of life, you just go and you try to figure it out. And you try to figure it out. We got Jeff, University of Houston, 1989. All right, put in the chat where you graduated. Put in the chat. Let's see how many Ivy League people are in the chat that I pissed off. How many Ivy League people are in the chat? I'm actually curious. And don't lie, bro. Like, Bay Ray, don't say you're from Harvard, because I know you're not. And I know you'll be lying. So put where you graduated in the chat. Let's see. All right, we got some Michigan State. We got Oxford, Rhode Island. Got high school dropout. I love it. Oklahoma State, UCLA. Oh, I love UCLA. I stayed at UCLA for a summer. Beautiful, beautiful campus. Such a beautiful campus, UCLA. Absolutely gorgeous. West Hollywood, amazing. Bitcoin right here, 96,000. We got Cambridge in the house, University of Arizona. That's a party school. You should have had fun at University of Arizona. Berkeley, also Berkeley. Goodness, I've been to Berkeley many times for like debate tournaments. Berkeley is the most beautiful campus in the world, outside of Stanford. Berkeley, the mountains. I love Berkeley. Berkeley's great. Copenhagen Business School. We got Georgia Tech in the house. Missouri State, 2005. I love it. Missouri. Lang focuses. I skipped my graduation and went traveling. I love that. That's amazing. It's always nice to take a gap year, dude. It's always nice to kind of just go out and explore, especially at that young age, 22, 23. I think that's the time to do it. I'm a big proponent of doing that. School of Rock and Roll. I love it. University of Lagos, Texas, Rutgers, Newark. Oh, I love that. I've been to Rutgers, Newark many times. A lot of friends from Rutgers, Newark. Love that. That's awesome. Hustlers University. I love that as well. I think a lot of us went to Hustlers University, the School of Hard Knocks. All right, so we don't have a lot of Ivy Leagues here. We don't have a lot of Ivy Leagues. We got Matt Money from Pennsylvania State. We don't have a ton of Ivy Leagues. All right, good. So I didn't piss off too many people with my rant about Ivy League schools. Now, granted, if I got into Harvard, Hood, by the way, 3655, if I got into Harvard, I probably would have went. There's no way I think I would have I wouldn't have picked Rutgers over Harvard. So I'm happy I didn't get in, dude. I'm really happy I didn't get in. I think on the off chance that, you become the next Mark Zuckerberg by going to Harvard or something, or Bill Gates, which again is just improbable. I think I would have probably been a consultant at some consulting firm and bored right now, So you got to take risks, and sometimes those state schools, they force. Also, Rutgers is 40,000 people, dude. Harvard is like 5,000 people, 8,000 people at max, 2,000 per grade. Rutgers is 40,000. It's a big campus. You're a small little fish. You have to fight for your spot. You have to fight to be relevant there. and it just toughens you up. It toughens you up a lot more. All right, let's see what else is going on in the markets. IWM, we got some small caps up 1% right now. What are the suits saying on Nvidia? How are they thinking about this? Let's get some perspective right here on Nvidia and see what some people are saying. Let's look at Bank of America. Bank of America has been pretty bullish on Nvidia for a while. Let's get their perspective and see if they continue to remain bullish. All right, here we go. Here's Bank of America on Nvidia.
Bank of America Securities Senior Semiconductors Analyst. What say you, sir? What do you think? What do you think of last night's numbers?
Yeah, good morning. I think that, before we look at last night's numbers, let's look at what they actually reported and the track record that they have set. So this is not a small company. This is one of the largest, in fact, the largest company. And it just put up a quarter where sales grew 94% and earnings grew over 100%. And they're guiding to a quarter where sales, yes, they're slowing down, but slowing down to a rate of over 70%. And when I look at what they are able to accomplish next year, we think they can grow over 50%. And I was just looking at the other, so-called Max 7. NVIDIA will probably grow 4 or 5 times that growth rate next year. And it's trading at less than 1 times earnings growth, whereas the average of those companies is trading at over 2 times earnings growth. So we think the numbers are exceptionally strong, but you're right that they were not able to come close to the so-called whisper expectations. I think part of it is they are just at the start of ramping their new Blackwell product. Supply is just starting to get going. But if I look at the usual range of beats they have versus their guidance, I think that'll probably get us pretty close to where people were expecting the numbers to come in. So I'm not worried. I think this is just quarterly noise, and this is to be expected in the growing pains of whenever they're launching a new product.
So,
the key is
what do you think the disappointment is here then?
Sorry, can you say that again?
I said, what do you think the disappointment is here? I mean, there was
the disappointment is that, the supply chain, is scrutinized very closely. It's followed by a lot of people. And every time the company reports, expectations continue to build up naturally for this size and what the stock has done. But there are always constraints when it comes to not just getting the supply, but actually building the products, getting them to customers. And what we have seen from NVIDIA over the last 2 years is that they are able to beat their own guidance by $2 to $2.5 billion consistently. Last time they guided $32.5 billion and they reported $35 billion. So that's why I'm not surprised to see them not exactly come to the high end of where the whisper expectations are. But if I look at the usual range of beats they have, we will come pretty close, I think, once they actually report the quarter. So I think this is more a case of, expectations in a transitions quarter. It's nothing to do with the long-term fundamentals of the company.
So Bank of America's justifying it by saying, hey, this is a transitional quarter. We can definitely tell through Jensen's tone. He was just kind of like bored on the call. It definitely felt like one of those quarters. Street rewarded them in the morning, now not rewarding them too much right here. NVIDIA down 1.26%, although they were green at 152 at one point. SoFi 1496. All right, so SoFi is moving. By the way, for everyone saying Robinhood app is lagging, it's not lagging for me. If it is lagging, that's kind of bullish. That means a lot of people are on the app right now. But for me, it's fine. Like, I don't see any issues. But for some of you guys in the chat, you are saying it's a little laggy. Okay, SoFi, let's check the 14, the 15 resistance. I think it's still 200,000 shares, if I'm not wrong. I think it wants 15, dude. It wants 15. So 15 is 189,000. 1498 is 15,000. 1499 is 26,000. So you've got a good 230, 240,000 over the next couple cents to get through, which isn't a lot for SoFi. I mean, this thing has so much volume every day. So I think it can get there. I think it can get there. So about 200,000 shares to get to 15. We did not touch 15 yet. If you guys saw it in your brokerage, I did not see it on Webull, not seeing it on Robinhood. I don't think we touched it yet. Sometimes different brokerages show different things, but we got to see if we can get that 15 now. Let's check the SoFi options. How are they doing? And we're holding this sucker until 2026, trying to get the first 10x on this. Yeah, this thing is up 340%. So we're up 11,900 on a $3,500 investment. I was really close to taking out my initial investment in India. I was with my uncle and we were at this like carnival, and so the SoFi options had doubled, and I was like, dude, I should take my initial out. And he was like, nah, bro, He's not even like, he doesn't know that much about SoFi, but he was just like, nah, bro, that shit's going up. Keep that shit. I was like, all right, fine, we'll keep it. That was some good advice. We kept it. And so I think SoFi to 20. Oh, there you go. $15 for SoFi. Wow, freaking SoFi doing its thing. Even though Nvidia's down, SoFi does not care. Dude, this is up more than double since the, call it September lows when it was just over $7. 1504 on SoFi. That resistance is gone. It's actually holding right here. This is incredible. This is great price action by SoFi. Let me see the resistance going into like 1550. Yeah, there's a decent order book here. It has some momentum. 1550 is 166,834 shares, so 1550 is going to be a little tough. But we broke through 15, which was about 250,000 shares. And so you see, here's the thing. A $15 stock, forget the market cap, forget the valuation, $15 in general, to most people here, all right, $15 is kind of cheap. You know, it's $15, right? Like forget the market cap, forget PE, forget, you're like, all right, $15. It's like, whatever, I can buy 1,000 shares, $15,000. It's not going to break the bank. It's not like a $100 stock. I think you've got a lot of people that are coming in. Same thing that happened with Rocket Lab when it went from like 4 to 11 and 12. It's like, all right, $12. You know, maybe Rocket Lab's overvalued at $12 at the fundamentals, but it's got $12, whatever. I'll take a gamble. And when you get that type of interest, because it's above a penny stock level, it's above $5, but it's below like $35, $40, where it's kind of like quote unquote affordable. That's where you get people coming in. Shout out to my uncle in the chat. He says, now we are jointly making money on SoFi. Dude, he has been doing his DD on SoFi. He's watching fucking Tanner's channel, going through all the details, reading the balance sheet, everything. He's loaded up a decent amount of SoFi. And I'm just so happy he got my phone internet in India, because like randomly we'd be on the bus together and we'd just be buying SoFi, dude. It'd be like what, 3 p.m. our time, like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. or maybe 10:30 a.m. American time, and we'd just be buying SoFi together in the middle of India at like what price was at the time? It was breaking. It was like $8.50, $9. I remember we were at that palace. If you guys remember, I took that picture at the palace. That's when it broke $9 for the first time. It was so funny, dude. We were at the palace. The whole family's there. They're like looking at the beauty of this fucking 1,600-year-old kingdom that was made by hand. And me and my uncle are like in this corner, just staring at our phone, looking at SoFi go up. And it was a hell of a moment, because SoFi was finally breaking out. And to me, SoFi is prettier than a 1,600-old castle, because when you buy it at 7 and it's at 9, 10, you know, it feels kind of good. So SoFi right there, 14.94. I think we get back to 15, falling just below 15 right now, up 2% of the day. SoFi probably makes its way over a $15 close, I think. Unless we get algos selling off the whole market, I think that $15 close is possible. Usually we've seen this with Palantir and Hood. You break resistance, you fall back under, people sell it off, and then you make your way back up to resistance because there is no resistance. And now that level hopefully turns into support. This is what happened with 12, 14, 13, and now hopefully 15 for SoFi as well. SoFi inching towards S&P eligibility. That's correct. And that's a tailwind. That is a tailwind. By the way, retail has been a net seller of SoFi. Now let's look at Robinhood right here on the stats. Retail has definitely been a net seller of SoFi. Yeah, look at this. I mean, there's a lot more red candles here than green candles. Retail has been a net seller of SoFi right here. And if you go back up into mid-October when SoFi was breaking out from 7 to 9, there were a lot of red candles. So the toots were buying it. Retail was definitely selling it. And that never made sense to me either, because it's like, wait a second. This is breaking out. This is what I think is also going to happen with Grab, right? Like if Grab goes to $8, that's not a sell. You know, that's like, all right, it's breaking out from a 2-year base. You know, you kind of let it play out. You wait for a real signal where you think, all right, it's topping out, or it's like it just doesn't have any support or momentum. SoFi has the tailwind of 2025 and Trump being bullish for financials. You don't sell it when it's breaking out from a technical 3-year base, and then when you got Trump in the White House. And this was before Trump became president. So now that Trump's president, it's like even better. So makes a lot of sense right here. SoFi 14.94, Dogecoin at 38 cents. You got Snowflake at 169, up 31%. Nvidia is taking it on the chin, folks. 142, down 2.3% on Nvidia. On Nvidia right here. I mean, if you're long-term bullish, the Nvidia PE went from 70 to 50. So theoretically, it has gotten cheaper as the stock goes down. If it goes down to 135, that PE probably goes closer to the 38, 39 range, which then I think it's like a kind of a screaming buy if it actually gets there, if you believe in their guidance growth. And ultimately, the street's just not giving Nvidia the premium today. But the fact that they got it to 153 means that that premium, I think, eventually will come back for SoFi. RF Andy, thank you for the $2 super chat. Congrats to SoFi, to the Miracle Whip gang. Correct. We got some of that SoFi money helping pay off the Miracle Whip every single month now as well. Tyler says, I was in a meeting. Did you ring the bell for SoFi at 15? So fine. Santa bringing 20. I did ring the bell, Tyler. Congrats to you. SoFi at 15. Dude, if it hits 20 by end of year on SoFi, and again, we've seen these stocks go from 7 to 14. We've seen it with Palantir, Robinhood, and Rocket Lab. At this point, we kind of have 3 different examples of low single digits, fundamentally strong companies. They get profitable. Rocket Lab's not profitable yet, but it's probably on its way. And then they break out, and then they really break out into the 20s because the 15s, 16s, 13s, psychologically, it feels cheap, even if it's not, technically cheap. But I think technically for all those stocks, that was cheap as well. And then boom, you just get a ton of new buyers coming in. The toots like buying as well when it's proven. The toots don't like taking the risk at under $10, but once it's proven, they're like, all right, this is a fundamental company. It's a growth name. Not a lot of companies are growing. Let's load up. And when big money comes in, it gets a lot more exciting. Rocket Lab as well was up 4% of the day, currently up 2% right now at $20.63. Google is down 5% because they will probably have to do a forced sale of Chrome. I say probably as of today's analysis that we were getting from the DOGE. I think they're going to repeal it, but that's why they're down almost 6% right now, 5.67%. The street feels that they will have to sell off Chrome as per a judge ruling yesterday, and that's why the street is a bit upset. Why is Hood red? Remember, Hood has ran a lot, guys. Hood was at 31 last week. Hood is at 36.07. I think holding even 34.50 to me is very bullish. Hood is not like MicroStrategy. Okay, Hood's not going to give you $80 gains in one day. Hood is a real business. A real business takes time. It consolidates. It goes through little ups and downs, but the ups and downs are not as violent as some of these other names that are out there. So to me, I am more than happy with Hood consolidating from 34 to 36. If we can push 37, 38, which I think we can because we hit it yesterday, then that's great. But it's run up a lot, right? And you guys you got to remember that when these things run up a lot, people will take some profits. Also, Bitcoin's down 1.2%. So as Bitcoin goes down, you're going to see a little bit of a sell-off in these crypto proxies. But again, when Bitcoin being down at 96,000, like it's still at 96,000, right? And that's what's maintaining a lot of momentum for some of these names as well. Coinbase is probably down right here. Coinbase, down 8%. Again, Coinbase and MicroStrategy is just like, it is undeniable that Coinbase and MicroStrategy right here down 3% now at 450. Are very volatile compared to Bitcoin. One of the reasons I can stomach being long Hood is because there's volatility, but there's not, 10% down days. Whereas Coinbase and MicroStrategy, that's like every day, up or down 10%. Hood is max, 3-4%, maybe 5-6%. Earnings was the most volatile day we saw in a while. And then when Trump got elected, it was volatile to the upside. But in general, you're a little bit easier with holding through the volatility on Hood. Why is Meta down? So Meta investors aren't happy with Trump. I mean, Trump is not a tailwind for them from any angle, which I think Meta is such a good business that I don't care. If Meta falls below 500, I am buying as much of Meta as I can. If it even gets like 510, I'm buying as much Meta as I can. I don't think that's going to happen. But if next year Meta is below 500 or we get a nice dip in the market and you see Meta maybe at 470, 480, I think that's this company is just, the execution by Zucks is on a different level. I think they're going to win hardware. Advertising is only going up. The AI, they're actually seeing the ROI via GPUs from Nvidia. And Threads is 250 million monthly actives. I don't like Threads. I don't use Threads, but Threads is going to start making money soon, folks. Threads is going to start making money, and I like money. And I've been on Threads. It's kind of no political content because like they kind of suppress political stuff. Again, I don't like that, but the advertisers probably love that. And so I think Threads is going to be a moneymaker for this company. And it's another part of the overall thesis. SoFi 1476. All right, the whole market taking a little bit of a decline. That's why we're seeing some red across everything. Snowflake still up 29%. S&P down about 0.44. Palantir 61. Tesla 337. GameStop 28. Apple 225. Reddit still green. Robinhood 35.88. And then Google right here 165. Down the most today. Can you give your thoughts on AMD? I don't like AMD. I think it will be a winner long term, but in the short term, I'd rather buy Nvidia at 142 than AMD at 135. I just don't believe AMD has the competitive ecosystem to compete with Nvidia's innovation in chips. I think by the time Nvidia is past Blackwell, AMD will just be catching up. And AMD doesn't grow like Nvidia. Like it's not a growth story the way Nvidia is. Long term, I think AMD will be fine, just because over time the market's going to expand. But I don't think it's cheaper than Nvidia by any sense of the imagination. I think some people think it is, just because it's like a lower stock. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. A few videos talking about Nvidia, and we also have Brent Thill giving some more of his thoughts on Palantir. Let's watch the Palantir one first. And then we have some other headlines that I want to run through. So this is what Brent Thill said yesterday about Palantir and their valuation. Again, this is the guy who thinks there are tailwinds for Palantir. He is bullish, but he just hates the valuation. So this is what he said yesterday on Yahoo Finance about the current valuation with Palantir.
For investors right now, it's been a great run. It keeps running up, and we're not discounting, hey, they've had easy comps. I mean, last year, they can grow at the rate they're growing right now because the comps are easy. The comps are going to get harder. Ultimately, the expectations are harder, and the multiple has nowhere but to go but down. So, again, kudos to them. You know, it's great to see their market cap above Lockheed Martin. But, again,
he's being sarcastic there. So he's taking some shots at this valuation right now.
We are talking about a company of $3.5, $4 billion of revenue on a $135, $140 billion market cap. You know,
first of all, get it right, sir. It's not $3.5, $4 billion of revenue. It's 2.87. Okay, so get the number right.
It's just the numbers. It's that's what we do for a living.
Brent,
we take risk rewards.
Yeah,
and
and you guys aren't the only ones that are sort of sounding this alarm, right? The street has gradually been coming around to this place where effectively you guys are all making the same case, which is this is too expensive given the outlook for the fundamentals of this company. And yet, to your point, it just keeps going up. What do you think is going on here? Why are people ignoring the valuation, still buying it?
There's a handful of reasons, right? If you look at this stock, it has a much higher individual retail component. So your uncle, your sister, like the mass market, owns it. So it's not just institutional owners. I spend my time.
Now, granted, he's right about that. And that's the cool thing about Palantir. A lot of average people that I know and myself, like we've made some good money off the stock, right? Your uncle, your random nurse that you go visit. But the institutions are increasing, right? So although he says there's a big retail following, institutional investors have gone up from 44 to 53. And that does mean there is more money coming into the stock from professional money managers.
I'm talking to institutions, not individuals. Very few institutions own the stock because of what we're talking about. And so when I go into meetings with institutions, it's less than 1% of my time. They want to talk about Microsoft and ServiceNow and many of the other names that are in our coverage. And so it's been driven off of retail investors. And if you look at the last post one of their board members put out, talking about they're bringing it, on different indexes to get it put into different indices to get it into different indexes. They've done a great job and obviously driving the S&P owners up and having to own it. But again, that retail ownership has dropped. The institutional ownership has gone up a bit. And so I think the institutions are more sensitive than maybe, your uncle or your sister about valuation, because everyone in the retail market, hates the analysts and hates me because they're like, why are you sounding the alarm bell? And I'm not trying to sound the alarm bell on the company's fundamentals. I love the company's fundamentals. I love what they're doing. I believe in their value prop, and we're huge fans of what they're trying to do. But again, it's the valuation argument. So there's a lot of reasons.
So that's his core thesis. Again, it's not like we haven't heard that thesis before around valuation. I think there's other components of the valuation. I agree it's expensive, but nonetheless, that is his justification for reiterating a $28 price target right now. All right, so we got the street kind of going red right here. S&P's down, Qs are down, Robinhood's down, Coinbase down, MicroStrategy again. Coinbase and MicroStrategy down about 8%, Robinhood down about 2%. So you got some of that Bitcoin volatility coming in. Bitcoin still holding 96,000, which is good. SoFi down from 15 to 1475, Rocket Lab 2052. This is relatively normal to me. We've had a really good run over the past even 3 days. Nvidia did crush it. Unfortunately, we're not able to get a premium on that earnings. But I mean, look, the market's up a lot, and so I think you're going to have some days like this where things take a little bit of a hit. This is also 10:30, so we're probably seeing a little bit more algorithmic sell-off. But the thing that I cared about the most yesterday was, can Nvidia put up the numbers? I really kind of don't care about Nvidia stock. I mean, like, this thing will go up and down, whatever it wants, but they needed to put up the numbers for the stock market to feel there is a secular growth story over the next couple of years, and they did that. And so that to me is, the most interesting part. And that's what ended up happening, which is why we are seeing, continued momentum overall in the market and not like, 10 or 15% down on Nvidia. It is indeed 1030. It is indeed 1030. And that's why we are also seeing a little bit of a slam. Again, this 1030 thesis, we talked about it 2 months ago. It's pretty much every day. It has indeed happened. So I don't know what it is about it, but 1030 is when it plays out. I heard some people were saying that the hedge funds at 1030, like their algos, like I was reading this one article, Jane Street in particular, that's one of the market makers around 1030. They like, it's just something happens during that time where they try to shake people out or they try to get people excited. They do a lot of wonky things to get these things to operate in a different way. And nonetheless, the thing about Nvidia, the option sellers won. Why? Because the market makers did not want to pay the call buyers. They didn't want to pay the put buyers. A lot of the market makers end up doing the selling of the options, right? That's how they make the market. So that's why I think option selling is empowering for individuals, and that's why on this channel we talk about it so much, because it is an opportunity to limit your downside and maximize cash flows. But the market makers probably didn't want to pay anyone, on the put side or the call side, and so they try to keep this thing as flat as they can. And the numbers just weren't that crazy. They were good, but they weren't that crazy to have to take Nvidia back to 150, 160, or all the way down to 120. And so option sellers ultimately won on Nvidia earnings. MicroStrategy right here down 7.4%, getting a little bit of a green candle. It dipped at 425, now at 439. So you are getting some people coming in and buying that dip. Tax loss harvesting as well. Yeah, that's another thing. Tax loss harvesting is another reason why we got some people that are taking losers. Put in the chat if you've taken any losses and officially recognized them this year. Or put in the chat if you're waiting till like December 31st to take your losses. Let's see how many people in the chat. And if you want to discuss the ticker as well, feel free to put the ticker. That is going to give you some relief on your taxes. Celsius losses are real. Yeah, where's Celsius? Where is freaking Celsius? Celsius 27.62. Well, it's up from like 25, so that's good. Lulu this year, yeah, Lulu recovered a little bit, but it's still down like 40, 50%. 310. No, it should be down only 30%. Lulu stock, it was at 500, right? Lulu, yeah, it's down 40%. All right. But it was at 240, so not horrible. DNA, dude, Ginkgo, freaking Ginkgo. Yeah, they had a reverse split. That was not the best. I took big losses with ARK. I sold out of all my ARK at $88. That was like 2 years ago. I was like, you know what? I'm done with this shit. After she sold Palantir, the last of her Palantir, this was like April 2022. I was like, I'm done. I was like, this is stupid at this point. So that's when I got it. I think I took like a, 30% loss on that, but that was a while ago. Doug says, I'm buying back Palantir covered calls for huge losses. Interesting. So you're not going to try to roll them. You're buying them back. So that's the Doug admitting to the Palantir market makers that he was wrong on the direction of the stock, which is fair, especially if you have those long dated covered calls at a 30, 40 strike. It's hard to imagine in 2 years Palantir back into 30s and 40s. It could happen, but it's hard to imagine it. So sometimes just got to take the L. But no, granted, whatever premium you're paying back to the market makers, the gains on the delta between Palantir stock in 2 years versus where it's at right now, hopefully should make up for that a lot more, which is not horrible. Rolling shows a loss, really? On your taxes when you roll options, that shows a loss? I didn't know that. Interesting. I did not know that. I did not know that rolling does that. Okay. So I did some rolling this year. So I guess I didn't do a lot of rolling last year. So I guess when I take a look at my taxes, I'll see kind of the implications of that. What else did we sell? What else did we sell? I got rid of RX. This is one of those pharmaceutical ones, right? People have been talking about this one a lot. Recursion Pharmaceuticals, they're down 6% today. NVO, SunPower. Interesting. I had a lot of gains, but from rolling calls, it went down. I did not know that. Dude, I still don't have the feature on Robinhood where they show you the realized profit and losses. Like, I'm waiting for that feature. Every time I update the app, it's not here yet. I know some of you guys have that. My mom has it. I really want that feature to see exactly what's my realized Yeah, I just don't have that yet. Sachin says, because you took a loss on an existing position and opened a new position over which loss and profit is not booked. That makes sense, because you're technically taking a loss when you close, and when you open a new one, that prop. Okay, so hold on. So when you do a covered call, right, or a cash secured put, and you get, let's say you're doing $5,000 in collateral, you get $500 back. Until you close the contract, does that 500 count as gains? Like, let's say, you opened it in November and it expires in January 2025. That 500 immediately goes to you, right? The brokerage gives you that as credit. But does it count as gains until you buy to close the contract or until the contract expires? Or do you have to do those things before that becomes a legitimate gain on your realized P&L? Counts when the position is closed. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, so if you have a ton of premiums that you haven't realized this year because you haven't closed the contracts yet, then maybe those can be extended until 2026. Right now, it's credit, not profit. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I actually thought this year all the premiums I got would end up being taxed. That makes a lot of sense. Because a lot of these, I do a lot of long dated puts. I mean, you guys know I have $35 puts for Robinhood in February. And I have $34 puts as well. So those, I kind of thought, I think I'm up 50% of those. I've collected like $4 or $5 grand. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to pay taxes on those. That makes sense because you haven't really recognized it yet. This is what TJ says. It's easy. What is the phrase? It's easy getting the premium. It's hard to collect it. No, it's easy collecting premium. It's hard to realize it, which is fair. It's easy to collect the premium. It is much harder to actually realize it because eventually you have to close out the contract. If your stocks are called due to a covered call, you actually have a loss on covered call in most cases unless sudden theta collapses. That's also very interesting. Yeah, when I look at my taxes this year, there's going to be a lot of stuff I have to look at because it's going to be different given the option selling versus last year. Where is Palantir? Are we green on Palantir? Robinhood back at 35. Market recovering a little bit. S&P was down at 587, now at 588. Palantir 6182. Got a green candle right there. Yeah, the entire market is getting a green candle. Look at MicroStrategy. Got a green candle. Meta got a green candle. AMD. It's all algorithmic, bro. All of this is so algorithmic at the end of the day. And the only way to beat the algorithms is there's two ways to beat the algorithms, in my opinion. A, you've got to be obviously long-term, right? Because over the long term, the algos don't matter because it's over a longer period of time. B, you've just got to know the stock better than the market. And the way that happens is when the market thinks SoFi at $7 is a stupid company. And then, you know more than the market. In that instance, like objectively, you know more about the market if you're buying SoFi at 7 than the market does because the market's saying that SoFi is a shitty company. It deserves to be down 40% over the past 3 years. Well, over that 1480, the market was wrong. Same thing with Palantir, same thing with Robinhood, same thing with Rocket Lab. You're either right before the market understands or you just are long-term. Otherwise, beating the algos is very hard. And on earnings, you're trying to beat the algos, right? And that's why earnings is always such a gamble. And I've kind of stopped taking earnings bets because it's just like, dude, it's like you never know with these algos and you never know how the market might want to keep the stock down or take it higher. Once you close it, it's considered realized. Yeah, I agree. Once you close it, it is considered realized as well. Okay, what else do we have? Where's the miners? Yeah, where's Marathon right now? How is Marathon holding up? Wow, Marathon got hit. It was up 12%. It's up 2% right now. So Marathon got hit bad, just like MicroStrategy. If anyone's into this Marathon trade, welcome to volatility. There you go. Welcome to volatility. It is here. It's still green on the day. The rest of the miners are red. So that just goes to show you how much. Look at CleanSpark, dude, down 8%. Marathon's up 2%. This is the market saying we don't care about any of the Bitcoin miners anymore except Marathon. I'm sorry, but that's what the market's saying right here. The market is saying, yeah, the Bitcoin mining thing, we don't give a shit. We care about Bitcoin treasuries. And that's why Marathon's up right now. Now, granted, Marathon's down from the 12% it was up at 930, but still, it's a massive divergence with the other Bitcoin miners. And you see things that are kind of fundamentally changing in terms of how they're presenting it. Roku, I think, is going to be down a lot right now. Roku recovered. Wait, was Roku down yesterday? Hold on. Where was the Roku? Let me see if Roku was down 1 month. Roku was at 82 on 1030 at 60. It went down. Roku. So it went down from 78 to 68. For anyone who's curious why Roku's down, as of yesterday, Trade Desk introduced a new streaming distribution platform. and they're partnering with Disney, Paramount, Tubi, etc. And the market's like, wait a second, where's Roku's moat if the Trade Desk, which is an ad tech platform, SoFi 1486, can now offer streaming distribution as well? And again, Roku makes money through ads via streaming. So market's a little worried right now about Roku. Jefferies downgraded them to 55 with an underperform based on the idea that Trade Desk might start taking some of their momentum as well. So you got that one going down as well. Any news with Hood or just trading with Bitcoin? I believe just trading with Bitcoin and also people just taking some profits. Again, it was up a lot this week, right? So you got some people taking profits, consolidating here at this $35 level right now. Marathon 2320, Roku 6870, SoFi 1486. All right, let's go to Dan Niles. Let's get his perspective on Nvidia and what that might mean for the broader markets.
He's the founder and portfolio manager at Niles Investment Management. And I don't know if you saw, there was a tweet this morning from Larry McDonald talking about just your average $250 billion pre-market trading change, right? That's literally how much the stock has moved in a morning. What do you make of it?
Well, I mean, if the guidance had been given in a vacuum, the stock would be getting killed. But what really saved them is commentary during the call and from the CFO. And there were two things. They said, number one, Blackwell shipments are expected to exceed initial expectations. So people were very excited about that. That's their newest chip. But the really big thing was they said, we expect demand to exceed supply for the next several quarters, not one or two, but several quarters in fiscal 26. So if you want to, believe the dream, that means that they just reset the bar lower. Things are going to accelerate as you go into next year. And so, depending, you're in a really great seasonal time of year for stocks. And so people just want to believe in the Santa Claus rally, and stocks.
So does that mean you're a believer? And what's the explanation then for the stock move? Our friend Kramer, who'll be coming up in just a couple minutes, he put out a thing this morning saying the early morning shorts who sought to paint the tape negative for Nvidia now up against 7 large price target raises. So there were 7 analysts now who've raised it. He said that the whole idea that they missed guidance is a canard. It's bogus.
Well, I respect him a lot, but at the end of the day, out of the 59 analysts or so that have buy ratings on this, not one of them said, well, we think they're going to raise estimates by 1% for the upcoming quarter. So here's the thing. There's a short term and the long term. In the short term, as I said earlier, Andrew, people want to believe it's that time of year. It's the Santa Claus rally. It's the best 3 months for stocks. You have an incoming administration that wants to cut taxes and deregulate. So you look at Nvidia, and they're telling you demand's going to exceed supply for the next several quarters in 2020 for next year. Now,
right.
So if you're a believer, you want to believe that. But there's no question that the guidance was below expectations, which is why the stock was down.
It sounds like you're the Grinch then. So then the question is, if you don't want to buy into Nvidia at this prices, which sounds like you don't, what would you spend your money on? And would you sell out right now?
No, I mean, what I'm trying to say, to be clear here, is, look, you're going to, at some point next year, I think you are going to run.
Real quick, I just bought the Hood dip, 50 shares, 35.45. 50 shares, 35.45. Bought the Hood dip. There you go. All right, bought the dip today.
Into an issue where you're going to need to see a return on investment for the money you're putting in. And so if you can think about Microsoft, right? They cut estimates after they reported the June quarter. They cut estimates for the following quarter after they reported the September quarter. So at a certain point, and they talked about at their Ignite conference that we've hit a wall potentially. Have we hit a wall potentially with scaling loss? So I think at some point you're going to get a pause.
Yeah, my uncle is in the chat, bro. We are so in sync. He said I also bought 50 shares. We are so in sync. Every time we see this fucker down 3-4%, you're like, you know what? We're going in again. All right, so we got some of that Hood dip. We'll see. Maybe it's a good buy. Maybe it's not a bad buy. Maybe we go to 33, 34. I think 35.45 down 2% after going to 38 with Bitcoin still at 96, 97. Let's see if it's a decent buy.
To digest this, I think NVIDIA revenues will double over the next several years again from here, because you've still got a ways to go to build out the AI infrastructure. I'm just saying you've got to be honest that nobody saw this being an issue. The names we like Amazon, They had a really great quarter. We see a solid e-commerce season coming up. We're looking into areas like software, because if you do have a cutback in what you need to spend for AI CapEx, that should benefit companies. You know, we like names like Oracle. We think next year it's going to be about networking all of this AI infrastructure together and having enterprises get access to it. So.
All right, that's fair. I mean, look, what Dan Niles is saying right there is demand outstrips supply. And that's, I forgot to mention this morning, but the biggest thing Jensen said, can't believe I forgot to say this because this was the biggest part of the earnings, was that they are supply constrained, not demand constrained. SoFi trying to make its way right back to 15. And if they are supply constrained, meaning they just can't get the supply together to fulfill the demand, not that people don't want the stuff, that's bullish. That's like really good. Like, that's not a bad thing. So if the sell-off is, oh, they're not going to be able to fulfill the supply, therefore the earnings growth will go down. I get that the numbers will go down, so people are upset. But if the demand has a tailwind of multiple quarters, as Dan Niles was talking about, then the numbers are eventually going to come back. It just might take some time. And overall, you don't want to see the industry being like, yeah, we don't believe in this AI thing. That's all right. Send Nvidia back down to like $80, right? If like, all right, this whole thing is falling apart. There's no demand, no ROI. We don't see it. That's not happening. As per yesterday's earnings, that's not happening. What's happening is they just have too much demand, which to me is a good problem. It's like when people complain about the Robinhood credit card, it's like, dude, they have 2 million people that want the card. They can't give it all at once. They have to be careful with it. They have to take their time. That is a good problem to have, not a bad problem. So I think that's bullish for Nvidia. Down 1.73%. It gets more attractive in the 130s, but I think if the street's upset about that, then that shouldn't be the biggest reason they should be upset. SoFi 1496, Palantir 62.28, Robin at 35.43, Grab at 560, IWM 233, Rocket Lab 2030. Rocket Lab giving away all of its gains today. It was up 5%. Now it's up 0.5%. Rocket Lab here at $20.30. What to do with Alphabet? I think we wait. With Alphabet. I think, look, if you're long-term bullish, I think obviously you got to continue to buy the dip. Your thesis is probably still intact and you don't believe the DOJ is going to break them up. But now Google down 7%. The street's really taking this DOJ thing seriously. I think the street thought that the judge would say, no, you don't have to break up Chrome. And last night the judge said, no, I do think they should break up Chrome. And now there's going to be this litigation for the next maybe couple months, couple years. And that's why the stock is getting hit right now. But if they don't have to, break away Chrome, then the stock goes higher. But that just might take a while to figure out if that happens. Do you think Hood is a buy right now? Well, I just bought 50 shares at 35.45. So yes, I do think Hood is a buy. Look, when it comes down to like buying into strength, it really comes down to, hey, do you believe in the long-term thesis? Do you believe that a lot of the fundamentals are intact? And do you believe that the sell-off that's happening right now is a bit aggressive compared to their growth, their trajectory? And are you willing to buy even more if it falls further down from 35.45? The answer is yes. Dude, I bought 500 shares last week at 33 on the dot. So I closed some of the puts I had, opened up some more. I opened up my margin maintenance on Robinhood. I didn't use margin, but I was able to access more capital because I closed some of the puts. So I released some of the collateral. And I bought my 500 shares at 33. I thought that was the end of it. I was like, all right, I'm in. And then I just hear that they acquired a company for $300 million. They're bringing $40 billion under custody. Bitcoin starting to take higher. Robinhood's number 5 in the App Store for finance. I'm like, all right, so these catalysts are really gaining strength. November's trading volume should be even better. So this is what you do. You buy on these dips. And again, I've switched my mentality from cost basis to share allocation. I think that's a part of maturing as an investor, right? Like if you're so concerned about your cost basis and not concerned about how much equity do you own at the end of the day, because that's what creates wealth is real equity. Like I'd rather be up 10% on $1 million position than 350% on a $1,000 position. You just want to be up a lot more by having a lot more equity. What is MST3 leverage shares 3x longs MicroStrategy? Is that a thing? MST3? There's no way that's a thing. Is that coming out? MicroStrategy leverage 3x, bro. Dude, if they have 3x MicroStrategy, this shit's going to get insane. SoFi back above 15. So for example, for anyone who just bought the dip at 1475, that's what I mean, right? It's like there are opportunities where quite literally the algos, everyone hates the algos. Sometimes the algos are your friends. The algos dumped Robinhood to 23 stupidly after earnings. Got to buy a lot more shares, got to buy more options. I mean, there's some moments where you got to take advantage of the algos being algos. And just now, 20 minutes ago, SoFi dumping right back to 1470. It's another opportunity to get a little bit more of SoFi. Maybe this was the Christmas rally shakeoff. Well, that's a good question. So when does the Santa Claus rally start? Does that start like in December? I feel like December is, well, let's see. Let's ask ChatGPT. Historically, when does the Santa Claus rally start in the stock market? I feel like this is the Santa Claus rally to an extent. Like we're here. Last 5 trading days of December and first 2 trading days of January. Oh, so ChatGPT saying it happens like December 25th. Huh. Okay, I guess that's the technical Santa Claus rally. Well, it makes sense, right? Because that's when Santa Claus is like literally coming to town. Week before Christmas, technically next week, Thanksgiving. Yeah. It's a rally that runs all the way through January. I guess that's why people sell into that rally as well, because they take their profits. Got some tax loss harvesting as well. So that probably all is included in the Santa Claus rally. Yo, when you guys were little, did you believe in Santa Claus? Did you like actually, or what year did you stop believing in Santa Claus? I think I was probably 12 when I stopped believing. I mean, I feel like I knew Santa Claus wasn't real way before 12, but like at 12, I left some cookies and some milk. And in the back of my head, I was like, my mom and dad, they're going to eat some of the cookies at night. They're going to make me think Santa Claus. I wake up, fucking cookies are there like normal. I was like, wow, my parents do not care about keeping this, fantasy alive. I was like, I got to hang it up, bro. I got to hang it up. I was like, mom's buying the gifts. It is not Santa. It is not Santa. I think I stopped believing when I saw my mom wrap the present. Christmas's magic has pretty much gone away from me for the past 10 years. I was the biggest Christmas head on the planet, dude. Every Christmas movie, I would decorate the house. I'd be so into it, dude. I can't even explain how into Christmas I was. It was something magical about that time. And then as I got to high school, I just you have priorities, things change. Now I don't even want gifts. Like, I don't think I've gotten a Christmas gift in over 10 years, dude. I don't ask for gifts. I don't need gifts. I don't want gifts. I don't like taking gifts. Like, I don't, it's just not a thing anymore for me. I like giving gifts to people, but it's not as materialistic as it was to me before. I think that happens when you grow up, bro. When you grow up, it changes. It changes when you have kids. Yeah, I think when I have kids, then I'm going to want them to believe in Santa and make it fun and get the tree and all that stuff. But after you stop being a kid, that magic is a little hard to replicate. Wait, Santa's not real? Dude, it was one of those things when I realized Santa wasn't real. I was like, oh, all right. I guess it was mom. No, when I was 6, my karate teacher brought me a gift as Santa, and his wig was so bad. Oh, I actually dressed up like Santa once. I dressed up like Santa for in 2017. I went to this holiday party. My mom made me do it. She was like, "Oh, these kids are gonna be there. They want Santa to be there." And then I dressed up as Santa. There's like all these 4-year-olds. I'm like, Santa. I did not want to do that, bro, but I did it. I did it for the kids. I did it for my mom. So I got to have that. I'll see if I can try to find the pictures from that. It was like what, 8 years ago. But I did do that. Also, when I was like 2 years old, I sat on Santa's lap, and we still have the pictures from that. So my mom was a big proponent of Christmas as well, and I think that's what got me into it when I was young. Are you not Hindi? This was really interesting. I went to my mom, and I think I was like 10 years old, and I was like, Mom, like, we're not Christian, so like, why are we celebrating Christmas? Because I was like starting to learn about religions and stuff, and I was like, wait a second, like this is a Christian holiday. Like, why are we celebrating? My mom was just like. Why do you care? My mom was like, you're getting gifts. Like, why do you care about this? And it was kind of funny. At 10 years old, I was like, wait a second. If we actually look at the implications of the religion, given where we come from, blah, blah, blah. And I was being like super intellectual. She was like, dude, shut the fuck. Like, just like take your gifts, bro. Relax. Like, you're good. So yeah, I asked my mom a long time ago as well. And she didn't really care. Shut up, kid. Have fun. Exactly. She was just like, just have fun. Why are you stressing about this? I definitely did a deep dive on religion when I was young, dude. I was really curious about religion when I was really little. And now I've kind of, I've grown up to the assumption that people believe whatever they want, and whatever gives them a purpose and meaning in life, that is fine. Whether that's no religion, it is what it is, right? Whatever you believe in, whether it's Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, whatever it is. But when I was little, I was really curious about just like the way religions came to be. So watched a lot of documentaries. Dude, on YouTube in 2009, I was not watching the big YouTubers. I was watching religious documentaries. I was also watching a lot of 9/11 documentaries. I was watching a lot of the conspiracy theories. Like, I was like one of those kids on YouTube in 2010, deep diving, SoFi 1505 on like worldly events, I guess. And, ultimately, I guess I got more educated on that stuff when I was younger. All right, let's see what else we got going on in the markets. We talked about Nvidia. We talked about the jobless claims, which were good. Let's get some updates on Bitcoin. Here's Galaxy Digital's Mike Novagratz, who's super bullish. Let's get his perspective on it and see what he thinks this is going to mean for an incoming Trump administration. All right, here we go.
Galaxy founder and CEO Mike Novagratz. We're closing in, as we said, 100. When does that happen, sir?
Today, tomorrow, it feels almost inevitable at this point. When markets get close to targets, they hit them. Listen, what I think listeners have to understand is when Donald Trump got elected, there was a paradigm change. And we have a hard time trading paradigm changes. What I mean by that is 4 years with a really harsh regulatory and political climate for people in this industry, and now wide open. The entire cabinet almost owns Bitcoin and is proponents of digital assets. I mean, Kennedy said his whole net worth is in Bitcoin. So the people around that table are very pro this space. They're pro innovation, they're pro digital assets, they're pro Bitcoin. And I think the rest of the world has to take notice, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it with buying from the Mideast. Right now, there seems to be an almost inexhaustible demand from the public equity markets. You look at MicroStrategy, what Michael Saylor's doing, and that's the real big buyer of crypto right now. People funding in the equities, using those monies to buy Bitcoin. But normally you hit 100, you bounce off of it. I would not be surprised if, we go much higher. We're in price discovery. There's not a lot of supply. There had been a giant seller for the last week between 92, 93, and 94, probably $14-15 billion of Bitcoin sold there. I know because we saw the buying, not us personally, but the U.S. market.
And Mike, so as a trader, though, if you're just trying to trade this, as you know so well, there are times when it blows through whatever you think the target is, and 100, you're saying, maybe it blows through that. There's also been these sort of remarkable retrenchments where, it retraces 50%.
Yeah, listen, there's a ton of leverage. I don't think it'll retrace 50%. I am very confident we don't go back below 80. Very confident, right? That's kind of where we took off for 76, 77, pre-election, that election move. It would be shocking to me if we went back. But listen, there's a ton of leverage in the system right now. You look at these 3 times levered, MicroStrategy ETFs, 2-time levered. You look at the funding rates to do crypto in our market, right? The perpetual market, right, as high as they've been. The basis is high. And so the crypto community is levered to the gilts. And so there will be a correction.
Well, so let's just speak to that, though, because, every time you say the word leverage, I think those who are risk managers, it's like a red flag. They hear that and it's like a bell goes off. Leverage in the system. And here we are talking about 2 and 3 times leverage. I don't know if you think that's too much leverage, but if that were to quote unquote break, how would that manifest itself?
Well, listen, I mean, the Bitcoin's a 50, 60 vol asset. And why do you need any leverage on it? But people have leverage on it, right? MicroStrategy's 100 plus the vol stock. And to double leverage that, seems like you're asking for trouble at one point. And so there will be some sharp corrections, certainly in the stocks that are more levered than the underlying commodity itself. Right. By definition, there has to be. You don't know where it comes from.
It's the most.
Boom, stream demonetized right there. It's the most, that got the whole stream demonetized there, dude. I need to really start playing these videos on my premium account. I don't know why it plays on a random account. I need to be logged into my premium so we don't get the ads. But anyway, I agree with Mike Novagratz right there. People are leveraged up a lot, and that is obviously helping Bitcoin. Now, let's look at Cynthia Loomis, or I believe her first name is Cynthia, but Senator Loomis right here. She's the one who has the bill to propose a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And let's see what she has to say about this right now.
That I have, and that President Trump has discussed about a strategic Bitcoin reserve or strategic Bitcoin stockpile, where the United States would acquire and hold Bitcoin for 20 years. Because of the way that Bitcoin has been appreciating since inception, this would be an asset that could help shore up the US dollar as the world reserve currency and serve as a reserve that could be used to reduce the national debt significantly. You know, the American people are still hurting from inflation, from high prices, and they want the national debt reduced. These are ways to do it with an asset that is immutable, can easily be held by the federal government in a variety of vaults, and that states can participate in as well. So this is the gold standard digital asset. And a strategic Bitcoin reserve is the way to embed it.
You know, we got off the gold standard a long time ago. My question is how much you would spend tax dollars at a time when we're talking about trying to reduce costs. How much would you spend on Bitcoin as part of this reserve?
We wouldn't have to spend any new dollars. We have reserves at our 12 Federal Reserve banks, including gold certificates that could be converted to current fair market value. They're held at their 1970s value on the books, and then sell them into Bitcoin. That way, we wouldn't have to use any new dollars in order to establish this reserve. The United States already holds over 200,000 Bitcoin in the asset forfeiture funds. So that would be the initial source of Bitcoin. So no new money spent on this reserve.
It's interesting. I mean, look, the way they get this through Congress, if Trump doesn't do an executive order, by the way, market's coming back a little bit. SoFi 1507, Palantir 6281, is basically by saying we have the money. We have to convert it and divert it from where it's being used. We don't need to raise new money for this. And then potentially they do what they need to do to either collateralize their own Bitcoin. They already have 200,000 Bitcoin, or raise funds from different Bitcoin operations. But if they can do that, then they have the money. You could argue they have the money. Robinhood, by the way, at 35.85, just trying to get back to that 36 level. So when they put it like that, and when you put it in front of Congress, you're going to get a lot of people that are the constituents of all these senators saying, hey, why aren't you voting for this? The money is there. The momentum is there. The excitement is there. The people want some level of debt relief. And I don't know if the general American public is going to believe that Bitcoin can solve our debt, but if you have a certain amount of them believe that's the case, you only need 2/3 of Congress to vote on this. And you got enough states that are urging these senators to vote yes on this, there might be a world in which we have a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And we already have 200,000 Bitcoin. If they want to buy another 800,000, then you have 1 million. There you go. And then you kind of just sit back and let it waste. Now, it would suck if it falls 50% next year, right? And then all those million Bitcoin, you're down hundreds of billions. But then again, and what Elon's been kind of showing us with this DOGE account on Twitter, we waste a lot of money on a lot of stuff. Like a lot of money on a lot of stuff. Speaking of DOGE, Snowflake up 32% as well. Here's what Vivek Ramaswamy had to say yesterday. We're getting a DOGE podcast, folks, weekly next year, and they're going to be talking about how they're solving the issues in the government.
As part of that process, I'm now all in. I'm focused on making sure that we actually accomplish the goal rather than just talking about it. So to that end, for the next little bit, I'm going to put a pause on the weekly Truth podcasts. I've enjoyed doing it this year. It's been incredibly fun and entertaining. I've learned from a lot of the guests, and I've enjoyed communicating with all of you. We're going to put that on pause for a little bit. And as you may have heard, Elon and I are going to start a separate track of DOGEcasts that explain exactly what we're doing to the public to provide transparency in what is a once-in-a-generation project. We want to bring the public along with us, to lift the curtain, to take us behind the scenes of what actually that waste, fraud, and abuse in government looks like. However bad you think it is, it's probably worse. But we don't want to do this to just expose the problem. We want to do it to solve the problem. So stay tuned. We're going to have more information about when those DOGEcasts are.
So, I mean, that's pretty incredible. You have a government related agency that's actually going to be doing a podcast, likely weekly or quarterly, to give people updates on what they're doing. And their Twitter account has already become active. So take a look at what they tweeted yesterday. Federal government agencies are using, on average, just 12% of the space in their DC headquarters. The Department of Agriculture, with space for more than 7,400 people, averaged 456 workers each day, which is 6% occupancy. Why are American taxpayer dollars being spent to maintain empty buildings? I love this. Okay. I love this. I love that this account, which now has over 1 million followers, is 1.9 million, is basically exposing all of the wasteful nonsense that the government spends our taxpayer dollars on. Now, will they solve it? I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. That's yet to be seen. But I don't think anyone can be against exposing the bureaucracy of the government and the fact that American taxpayer dollars are being wasted every day in every different agency, different vertical, and maybe there's a way we can stop that. And so overall, I think that's bullish, dude. I think every country, yeah, someone in the chat says UK needs this. Every country, if this works, I think we'll be using some version of this. And you're just going to get a lot more. But now you got to have people ambitious enough like Elon and Vivek to actually do this. And you need someone like Trump who's supportive of it. You need a prime minister who actually allows this to happen. But if it does, you get a lot more people to see different momentum. Here's another thing they said. In fiscal year 2024, U.S. Congress approved $516 billion to programs whose authorizations previously expired under federal law. Nearly $320 billion of that $516 billion expired more than a decade ago. So we asked for $500 billion. We don't have 300 of the $500 billion because it expired 10 years ago, but we're authorizing it like we do have that $300 billion. This is stuff I didn't even know of. I think everyone kind of knew that the government's wasting our money, but this type of money is like ridiculous in terms of what we're seeing. And now it seems like it might get exposed. We have some news from Google. So Google posted right here, the DOJ's approach would result in an unprecedented government overreach that would harm American consumers, developers, and small businesses and jeopardize America's global economic and technological leadership at precisely the moment it's needed the most. So Google's going on the offensive right here. You got Kent Walker, the president of global affairs and the chief legal officer at Google, saying that this is absolutely ridiculous for the DOJ to try to do this. This is why they are going to appeal. So he says the extreme proposal would endanger the security and privacy of millions of Americans and undermine the quality of products people love by Chrome, require disclosure to unknown foreign and domestic companies of not just Google's innovation and results, but even more troublingly, Americans' personal storage queries. That's a hell of an argument. Chill our investment in artificial intelligence, perhaps the most important innovation of our time. That's true. Hurt innovative searches like Mozilla's Firefox, whose business depends on charging Google for search replacement. Deliberately hobble people's ability to access Google search and mandate government micromanagement of Google search and other technologies by appointing a technical committee with enormous power over your online experience. I think Google's right on this. I think this is stupid. I think this is so stupid. Now, will they win in court? We'll see, but I think they definitely have an argument. SoFi 15.13, Palantir 62.78, Robinhood 35.75. It was down 2.5%. Now it's down 0.9%. Google 165, Coinbase 300, MicroStrategy 458, still down about 3.3% of the day. And you got Tesla right here forming a nice little base, maybe at 340. Hit 335, now back at 340, down 0.4% on the day. The entire market kind of doing a little bit of a U-turn. S&P inclusion, hopefully for SoFi. I'm so excited for SoFi getting into the S&P, but 591 on the S&P hopefully will include companies like Robinhood and SoFi next year, but the S&P is now green. The S&P is now green. Rocket Lab also went from being down to being green 7%. Talk about a reversal on Robinhood. It looks like it was the 1030 slam, folks. It looks like it was the 1030 slam. I mean, you got the entire market doing a U-turn. Entire market. Look at CrowdStrike, bro. CrowdStrike is almost at all-time highs. 398 was the all-time high in July. It's at 360. This thing fell to 205. It fell actually below that on August 5th, but like after the initial collapse, it was in that 220, 215 range. Like, it is incredible. Hell of a reversal, lots of momentum. You know, people call Palantir expensive. This thing's trading at a 527 PE. Investors are willing to pay for the growth, and they're willing to go long. Cybersecurity. Also, that's another ETF I want to DCA into next year. Hack, H-A-C-K. I think cybersecurity, you just got to go long. Cybersecurity over the next decade. AI is going to make cybersecurity more in demand. So I think Hack is another nice cyber ETF to get exposure as well. Crowd has earnings next week. Okay, so they'll have earnings. Hopefully those are good. Also, the weirdest thing happened with Palo Alto, dude. They're doing a 2-for-1 split, which is just so weird to me. It's not like it's bad, but it's like, I don't know why they need to do a 2-for-1 split. So from 400, they're going to 200, and they're going from 1 billion shares to 2 billion shares. I guess that's good for Palo Alto shareholders, but usually you get a 5-for-1 split, 3-for-1 split, 10-for-1 split. I've never seen a 2-for-1 split. I just don't know exactly why they're doing that. So that is a little weird. But they had a decent earnings and they are slightly up today as well. Why is Amazon down? I don't know, dude. I actually don't know. By the way, speaking of Amazon, wow, Amazon getting hit under 200. I don't know why Amazon's down. Bezos is done selling, so I don't think that should be that much of a concern. Bezos did respond to Elon just now. Either Bezos is capping right here or he's correct. Elon said, I just learned that Jeff Bezos said Trump would lose, so sell Tesla. Jeff Bezos says, nope, 100% not true. Who do you guys believe? Elon or Bezos? Who do you believe? Put in the chat. Elon or Bezos? Who do you believe? 2 for 1 is very normal. All right, what companies have done a 2 for 1 this year? What major companies have done 2 for 1s? I haven't seen any of them. Maybe I'm just not looking at the right ones, but I have not seen a 2 for 1 split in a while. Let's do a poll on this. Yeah, let's do a poll. Let's see how many Elon haters. See how many Elon haters we got in the chat. Let's see. I don't know, dude. I don't know. Elon might have some decent sources, and Jeff might be trying to cover his ass right here. I mean, he did putting out that article, or maybe Elon, who has, let's just say, not necessarily said the most truthful things in the past. Maybe he's wrong here. Okay, who do you believe? Elon, Bezos. I think the poll is going to be 70-30 Bezos. That's my gut. Let's see. I think you guys are going to go 70-30 Bezos. I think even the Elon bulls here like Elon, but they know sometimes he's a little off on these. Bezos is in the lead. 60-40 Bezos. 50. Oh, it's 50-50. Got the Elon stands coming out. 50-50. Yeah, Elon's trolling a lot of the times. That's also, what happens. All right, it's 50-50. We got an equal mix of Bezos versus Elon here. Okay, yeah. So in terms of why Amazon's down, I don't know, dude. Amazon, it's such a weird one, dude. It's so weird. Like, you'd think they broke out to 215. Whoever bought a 215 probably thought this thing was going to 230. Nope, we're right back to 197. I wouldn't mind it being below 200 going into 2025. I'll start DCAing, selling some puts at 185, 180, and I'll start my Amazon position. But I'm expecting to have to buy it at 215 to 220 next year. So we're going to see on that. Tesla is the one. I can't tell you guys how excited I am to start the Tesla position. I really am excited to build up a decent position in Tesla. I mean, it would be nice to at least next year, hopefully call it 500 shares of Tesla. That would be nice. Round about that range, maybe 350 to 500. And I'm going to do it via selling puts, selling covered calls. We're going to manage the position. Markets tend to dip 10% every year on average. So I don't know when that happens, but if that happens, I think you got to have some dry powder for Tesla. And I think bots and Trump is the thesis. And bots is a bigger thesis than Trump, but that thesis alone, I think, makes Tesla exciting. And again, when they sent that optimist to Kim Kardashian, that to me was a smoke sign or a smoke signal. They were saying, hey, like, you're not just sending optimists to Kim Kardashian for fun. Like, you're sending it because you're telling people to read between the lines. We've got some announcements coming up. Otherwise, why would you do that, right? That's just wasted advertising dollars for no reason. And I'm pretty sure they paid Kim Kardashian. There's no way Kim Kardashian's doing that for free. So I think we're going to get some optimist announcements soon. I think we will. Where is Rocket Lab? Are we mooning on Rocket Lab? Wow. Did Rocket Lab announce anything, or are we just going back to where we were on earnings when it was up 50%? Let's see. Rocket Lab. No, I don't see any announcements. No press release, nothing. Just looks like a bull flag on the charts. And breaking out. SoFi 1520. Look at that. Look at SoFi. Robinhood as well, 35.81. SoFi 1522 on SoFi. That is not bad. Not bad at all. That's pretty damn good. Why wouldn't you just do 3x leverage? Do you mean on Tesla? I don't want to do leverage on Tesla, dude. I just want to own the shares. Like, I will collateralize the shares with calls, but I like TSLL is great as a trading instrument, but I don't want to go long TSLL, because those things, they erode over time, and they've been doing very well because Tesla's done very well, but if Tesla's ever flat, and we've seen Tesla go flat many times, then these things are not the best. Rocket Lab right here, up 8% on the day. Rocket Lab was just up 7%. Now it's up 8%. So you got Rocket Lab doing nicely. Up 8.3% on the day. CMA, what is CMA? CMA, that's down 2% right now. Oh, not derode. I meant erode. My bad. I made up a new word today. Erode. The net asset value erodes because you're basically getting diluted every day if the stock is flat. So that's why they're meant to be trading instruments against the volatility of the stock because they're leveraged. That's why the MSTX and MSTUs have done so freaking well. MSTX down a little bit on the day, but they're not meant to be held long term. You know, I think some people are like, oh, let me buy TSLL. It's like $20. Tesla's $340. But there can be moments where that like just doesn't work out necessarily. And when Tesla was down all this year, then that one was not working out the best. But as a trading instrument, I think as like cash grab, selling puts on it, getting some premiums, it is very possible to do that. HIMS is up 5.7%. Still doing DD on HIMS. I'm kind of in between. Is the Amazon thing bullshit or is the Amazon thing like legit in terms of competition? Is HIMS really a Spotify where they just have a better product and YouTube Music's not going to beat them, Apple's not going to beat them? Or is Amazon legit going to stall their growth? I don't know. I still think there's some DD to be done on that, but I know a lot of the HIMS bulls feel that the Amazon stuff is absolute BS. It's not really going to stop the momentum for HIMS. Got Matt Money in the chat. I wish I bought Rocket Lab. Yeah, Matt, you bought Rocket Mortgage. That's the problem, dude. You bought RKT. It's the wrong rocket, brother. You needed to buy Rocket Lab, not RKT. How do these ETFs have 3x leverage? So we had someone who manages these funds on the channel a couple months ago, and basically said it's built into the internal technology of the exchange traded instrument that powers the ETF. So like algorithmically, if a stock goes up 10%, these things go up 20 or 30% based on their leverage. So it's a mathematical design around how to compare against leverage. But the problem is if the stock is flat, you don't have access to the leverage, which means the actual value of the assets under management inside of the exchange traded instrument, which controls the ETF, starts to erode. And that's what we were seeing with BitX for a long time. I mean, just look at this chart. Let's show you guys this. So BitX right here at 61.55, right? Up 5% on the day. This is 2x leverage Bitcoin. If you look at it year to date, we went all the way up to 51 when Bitcoin was 73,000. Okay? 51, Bitcoin 73. Then we come all the way down at one point in August to 1855. And then we come up to about 35 at the top before Trump gets elected. Okay. When BitX got back to 35, Bitcoin was at 75,000. So BitX was down about 75% from the top even of March, even though Bitcoin was at the exact same price. That was the net asset value of the assets under management in BitX eroding because Bitcoin itself was not able to have the volatility that was needed to create the leverage on these exchange traded instruments to do well. Now that Bitcoin's at 90,000, you've got BitX at 61, which is not that much higher from where it was back in March when Bitcoin was at 70,000, but you needed that volatility to get it to go higher. And so a lot of those trading instruments just rely on the underlying asset really doing well for the leverage ETF to show the return. Alex, thank you for the $5 super chat. Amit, what's the fascination with HIMS? Their products can literally be purchased at Costco for a fraction of the price. What's their moat? I don't think they have a moat, but they have a lot of growth. And I think that's what the market's buying right now. They have a lot of growth. I mean, some people say they have a personalization moat, I guess you can argue, but they have a lot of growth. And right now the market's betting that growth is enough to beat Amazon or Costco or any other competitor. Rocket Lab up 7%. Amazon still down. Palo Alto is now green. Robinhood, look at that, right back to 36 on Robinhood. Not bad. All right, so for today, 35.45 was a decent dip. We got some shares at 35.45, so we scooped up 50 more shares of this company, and at least for now, that was a decent dip for today. Marathon 24.12, Roku 68.85, SoFi. Wow, 15.31 on SoFi. Goodness gracious. 15.31 on SoFi. Reddit's up. Yeah, Reddit's up as well. Tesla just went green. Are we green on Tesla? We are green on Tesla. Just about to go green on Tesla at 341.8. SoFi doing its thing, man. SoFi doing its thing right now. SoFi now over the past month is up 46%. Past 3 months, it's up 106%. September, October was the time to get SoFi, and now it's doing well. But now you got big money coming in. Now you got big money that feels like it's reasonable to buy it at 15, and that should just take it higher. Also, the institutional holdings on SoFi, they are higher. I mean, they are much higher than before. I think I have the chart on this right here. Yeah, take a look at this. Take a look at this. Look at this. Toots are coming in. Retail was selling this thing at $9. Look at this. Over 550 million shares, which I believe is just about 50% or 49%, maybe 51% of the float. They are coming in. And so that is very bullish for SoFi. Archer's up right now. Again, they got upgraded yesterday. It makes sense that Archer's doing well. ARCH right here. Wow, 3%. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Archer 7%, 545. Yeah, we were talking about this bad boy at 340 2 weeks ago. Look, the thesis on this one, for anyone who's curious, $2 billion market cap, $6 billion order book of purchases. So it's trading 3x, or they have 3x the amount of orders for their jets, whatever you call them, against their market cap. Now, that doesn't mean that's $6 billion of profit, but that does mean they have a ton of demand against the value of the company itself. And if they show any more purchase orders and they start, generating some real net income on it, Street might give it an even higher multiple. So there you go on Archer. By the way, MicroStrategy is still 15% short, and Marathon is 22% short. MicroStrategy now up 1%. Marathon is up 7%. So the shorts, either they're covering right now or they're doubling down on the short. They think that this is all going to collapse. But if Bitcoin keeps going up, I think the shorts are going to get a bit scared and we might see some more covering. Bitcoin right here still at this 97,000 range currently right now. Are institutions still buying Palantir? I would say so. I think institutions are buying at 61, 62. I think it's definitely more than retail, in my opinion. Honest is doing work as well. Yeah, Snowflake's doing great as well. Snowflake right here. Great day for Snowflake. Got oversold, 34%. Look, had a good quarter. Can't deny it. I love Palantir, but can't deny they were oversold. They had a good quarter, re-accelerating revenue. The thing I don't like about them is the SBC. I mean, they diluted shareholders just to raise more money to give out more SBC. I think they got to navigate that. But it's a tech company that was trading at like 35 billion, growing at 28%. You're going to get an update on them. So if you're in Snowflake, you made money, congrats. Long term, I'm still a little skeptical compared to Palantir, but it was oversold. And it's getting some love. And then you got Honest right here, 769. Honest up 6%. Honest now is up like 40% over the past 2 weeks since earnings. They are not profitable yet. SoFi is not profitable yet. Or sorry, not SoFi. Can't say that. Snowflake is not profitable. SoFi is indeed profitable. Okay, CC says, hi, Amit. I'm new to options. Is a $7.5 call expiring Jan 26th a good investment? All right, so CC, because you're new to options, I would say to not buy any options. I would say to watch as many YouTube videos as you can on buying calls and as many articles you can read and talk to ChatGPT, and then ask that question. If you're new to options, I wouldn't even buy it. You know what I would do? I would just set up a paper trading account. So instead of spending your real money, you can go to Robinhood. You can go to, if you just type in paper trading account on Google, you'll find a bunch of these websites, and then buy the 750 call with paper money for Honest or Archer or whatever you're asking for. And then see if it ends up working out over the next couple months, especially if you're new to options. Because if you're asking that question and you're new to options, that means that you're, asking if the strike price is a good strike price when you're new to options. That means you're probably concerned about if you're even thinking of the stock in the right direction. And the thing with options is you got to have an understanding of price directionality. Like you have to, even when you're option selling, you have to have an understanding of price directionality in the context, especially if you're buying the put or the call. So I would easily set up a paper trading account and then just kind of see how it plays out. And if it works in the next couple months and it makes sense, then you can go back to the main thing and kind of play with it with your own money and see if it makes sense. Matt says number one rule of options, don't talk about options. Yo, this is kind of true, bro. It's like Fight Club, right? Which, by the way, I'm going to get hit in the chat. I don't care. I don't think it was the best movie. I know a bunch of you guys are going to leave right now. You're like, you know what? Unsubscribe. I don't care. I don't think it was that good of a movie. Anyway, having said that, one of the number one rules of options is not to talk about options, because it's one of those things where it's like, Mike, see, 10 people just left because I People are so emotional about Fight Club. But it's like what Michael Saylor said about Berkshire, right? Michael Saylor said about Berkshire, Patrick Bet-David asked him, hey, wait a second, why haven't you had a call with Warren Buffett? You could probably get a call, you can make the connection and make it happen. Michael Saylor said, no, people have to want to inquire about Bitcoin to learn about Bitcoin. Okay. People need to come to the religion. They can't be converted into the religion. And I think you got to take the orange pill to really actually want to then reach out to someone like a Michael Saylor and have that conversation. So he said, until Buffett reaches out to me, I'm not going to reach out to him. I think same thing with options. You've got to be so damn obsessed about derivatives and the math and understanding it and puts and calls and selling and what does it mean and watch. Like I don't have the notebook with me, but if you guys remember in March when I was really getting into selling options, I posted this on Twitter. It was a Friday night and I wrote like 3 pages worth of notes to understand what the hell does selling a put actually mean. And then over time, I just started getting obsessed with it. And now I feel like I'm a little bit more confident when I discuss it. So I think Matt's right. The number one rule of options is you don't talk about it because it takes so much time to actually learn about it. And then when you feel confident enough, it's easier to talk about it. But CC, we do have an option segment every Friday on the Market Open. So if you go to the Friday episodes at the end, me and TJ talk a lot about option selling and just options in general. So every Friday, last hour of the show, you can hopefully gain a lot from there. All right. Are you guys killing me for my Flight Club take? Are you guys killing me for it? It's not that bad of a take, dude. It's really not that bad. It's not that good of a movie. It's just not. I don't like the ending of it. I don't think the philosophical meaning of it is that interesting. I think Dark Knight's better. I think Wolf of Wall Street's better. I think Inception's better. I think Interstellar is Legends more better, leagues beyond Fight Club. I think Dark Knight Rises is better. I think there's a lot of movies that's better than Fight Club. Fight Club's not even top 10 all time. It's definitely not top 20 all time. Maybe you'll get top 50. I'll give you. It's definitely not top 25. You'll get top 50. But anyone think it's a top 10 movie of all time? You're wrong. Like, I think you don't understand movies. I really do. I don't think so. I don't think so, bro. Look at this. Thank you, Harmsy. Fight Club is mad. See, more people are leaving now because it makes people so emotional, bro. So emotional, but it is a fact. It is indeed a fact. MicroStrategy 474, HIMS at 2284, SoFi 1521, Hood 3596. Where's Rocket Lab? Rocket Lab's still holding 7%. Rocket Lab still holding 7%. Michael Keaton was the best Batman. No, Christian Bale was the best Batman, dude. Come on. Christian Bale. I'll give you Michael Keaton, but Christian Bale. He was, and Heath Ledger, rest in peace, was the best Joker. Have you guys watched Joker 2? I think we realized it was like it was one of the most horrible films ever. I didn't watch it. It turned into a musical or whatever, but the Joker before that in 2019 was a lot better. But Heath Ledger is still the GOAT when it comes to Joker. Mithra says, I thought you were smart. Did you listen to Tool yet at all? No, I still haven't listened to Tool. I need to listen to Tool. I need to do that. Options is an obsession. Correct. Options is an obsession. That is indeed correct. Did you watch Bollywood movies? Yeah, but my family clowns me because I watch Bollywood movies, but like I watch the old ones. So I don't watch any of the new ones because I just don't enjoy the new ones. So all the old ones, like whenever I'm listening to music, I play the ones from like 2003. And they're like, bro, there's been a lot more movies. I'm like, yeah, but the old ones are the best. So I don't watch any new ones. If the market goes down, is that a better moment for cash cleared puts? Yes, you sell puts on a stock when it's down. So the time to sell puts on HIMS is not now when it's up 8%. It's when it was down 30%. You believe in the thesis. HIMS was at 17. You're like, you know what? I don't think it's going to 15. Or I don't think it's going to stay at 17. Or I think it's going back to 20. And so you sell a put in those ranges. You collect a lot of juicy premium because the put prices increase as the stock goes down. That's the nature of how a put works. And when you sell it, you collect a higher premium for the collateral you're putting up because the risk of it continuing to go down as it is already down is higher. So with Snowflake, if you sold 125 puts yesterday, you're up probably, 80 to 90% of those puts as the stock is so far away from 125. Now it's at 172. It's up 30% in a day that those puts are likely down. So, let's look at that right now. So SoFi, 125 puts. Or sorry, not SoFi. Sorry, Snowflake. I meant to say Snowflake. Snowflake, SoFi 1522. Snowflake 120 puts expiring tomorrow. Yeah, look at this. The 170 put is down 90%. The 120 put is down 100%. 135 to 140. They're all down 99.9%. All of them. Look at that. All of these just down. Because the stock has run away. And if the stock has run away, then you made all the gains as the put seller versus the put buyer. Who's losing money in that deal? The put buyer. The put buyer is losing money. So the put buyer says, okay, SoFi 130, they're going to have a shitty quarter. I'm going to pay $200 for that put. You're selling them that put. You have to put up 13,000, 130 times 100. And that's your collateral to get the 200. So you get a $200 divided by 13,000 return, for example. That's a good return. If SoFi goes below 130, you got to buy 100 shares. You got to execute that 13,000. If SoFi goes to 170, like it is right now, you keep the 200, you get back your 13,000. That guy loses the 200. But that guy might not be mad that he lost the 200 because he might have bought it as a hedge against this position because he might have 1,000 Snowflake shares. And he's like, look, I think it'll do bad. I'm going to buy some puts. And if it goes away, I don't care because if it goes to 170, I'm up so much on the position that I don't care if I'm losing on the put, AKA the hedge. And that's what kind of makes the market when it comes to selling and buying puts. And that's why I like selling puts, because if you can do it on good companies that you like, and the worst case is you have to buy the shares, then it's not the worst risk reward. SoFi right here at 15.25, Tesla 3.39, struggling to maintain that 3.40 level. BitX up 5.6%, Robin at 35.80. Palantir as well, still holding on to the 60s. Palantir 62.11, ARK at 54.92, Celsius 27.81, and then the S&P 500 is green to end out the 11:30 trading session right here. 591, just past 11:30 on the S&P 500. All right, guys, I think that is pretty much it. We will be back on the market close. Nice little 3-hour stream. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. We did talk Google. All the timestamps will be in the description so you guys can switch to different segments. Today we're going to have Sam talk about Grab, the Grab thesis at around 4:15. So if you're interested in Grab, he'll be there to help go through that. We'll get money market inflows and outflows at 3:45. So we'll be talking about that. And then in terms of earnings, I don't think we have any. Oh, no, we have Intuit and NetApp. Those are the big ones. Intuit's an important one. So we'll talk about Intuit, and that's pretty much it for today on a Thursday. All right, that's it. Let's do word of the day, and then you guys can get out of here. Also on the market close, we might watch the William Simona interview. I think the CEO was on CNBC, so maybe we'll do that on the market close and see why William Simona has so much excitement. Word of the day, DeRode and Simona. Yes, exactly. We just make up so many words on this channel. Edentate.
Edentate.
Toothless or having only few teeth. Certain species of edentate mammals, such as anteaters, have evolved to thrive without teeth. Sloths are edentate animals using tough lips to handle their plant-based diet. Toothless or having only few teeth. All right, there you go. That's an interesting one. Edentate. So next time I guess you're at the dentist, you might want to. Your dentist is probably going to be mad because if you have some cavities, it's going to be like, hey, you're going to be edentate soon. You're going to be losing all your teeth. But if you keep good track of your teeth, then maybe you will not be edentate. There you go. That's what we got. How to train your dragon, toothless best dragon. That's hilarious. That's so funny that your mind made the connection on that. Old people become edentate. Yes, all of us eventually will become edentate. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. I'm about to go hop into some vegan leather and go take a little bit of a drive around. You guys blew my mind yesterday. The Tesla was vegan leather. It blew my mind. But I guess we got some vegan leather. All right, everybody. Thank you. We'll be back at 3:45. Grab thesis. We'll go through that. And we will get some money market, hopefully outflows, maybe some inflows. We'll see after the bell. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you. See you guys in a couple hours.